Today we're going to be taking a look at 75372 Clone Trooper and Battle Droid Battle Pack. This set is set to release on January 1st of 2024 with 215 pieces and a retail price of only $30 US. Yes, $30 US for 9 minifigures and 4 builds. This set really does have the potential to be the best army builder that we've ever seen. And now digging into the box, on the back you're going to have those annoying thumb tabs. However, this is a smaller set, so thumb tabs are expected. And on the inside you're going to find 3 numbered bags and 2 instruction manuals. One instruction manual is for all of the minifigures as well as the speeder, the barricade, and the stap, and the second instruction manual is for the tri-droid. Inside your first instruction manual you're just going to find your standard LEGO building process, and again it's going to be the one where you build all of your clones and your battle droids. And then on the very back there's going to be this advertising, I guess, for what's called Rebuild the World. I honestly have no idea what this is referring to. I guess it's just some sort of LEGO slogan. And then in the second instruction manual is where you're going to find the instructions for the tri-droid. And then on the very last page, you're going to find advertising for the whole entire January 1st, 2024 wave, which is just 2 sets. Taking a look at the minifigures here, first up we just have 2 regular battle droids, which at first just seemed like 2 regular B1 battle droids. However, if you notice, the battle droid on the left actually has 2 straight arms, which actually categorizes it as a whole entire separate figure from the battle droid on the right, which has 2 bent arms. And if you're really getting in depth like this is the first time that LEGO has put a 2 straight arm battle droid in a set since 2008, which is just really random. Typically battle droids have 1 straight arm and 1 bent arm. However, this one has 2 straight arms for some reason, which makes it kind of unique in a way, but also not very unique because you can easily switch out the arms. And also, if you notice, the one with 2 bent arms has a little clip on the back that can hold his gun, and that's because this is the one that goes on the stap, which we'll take a look at here in a minute. And again, he has 2 bent arms. However, there are extra straight arms included as extra pieces, so if you want you can just easily switch the arms out so he can hold his blaster. And honestly, I never expected myself to be talking so in-depthly about battle droids, but here we are. The next figure we have is the long-awaited Super Battle Droid. This is the first set that we've seen a Super Battle Droid in since 2015, and this is a new and improved version. Here he is compared to the older version that we got back in 2015, and as you can see, their torso molds are different, with the newer one just being a lot sleeker and a lot more defined. But other than their torso molds, their legs and arms are pretty much exactly the same. If any difference, the newer one is just a bit sleeker all around, and you do get 3 of them in this set, which makes it an awesome droid army builder. And then next up here we have the Clone Shock Trooper. This is the exact same Shock Trooper that was in the Coruscant Guard gunship. I really like this figure. In my opinion, it's one of the better clones that was released in 2023, minus the helmet holes, which I will discuss a little bit more in-depthly in a little bit. However, still, I think this is a great figure, and honestly, the helmet holes aren't even super noticeable on this one just because of his helmet printing. I've talked about this before, but some clone troopers they're noticeable on and some clone troopers they're not, and on this one I don't think they're super noticeable. However, they are a bit more noticeable on the plain white troopers. However, first I want to talk about the troopers themselves because the printing on these guys is incredible. These are the long-awaited plain white phase 2 clone troopers. The last time we saw troopers like this was in 2014, and now LEGO has finally remade them and they just look so good. Everything from the helmet to the torso to the legs, these are some of the best looking clone troopers that I think LEGO has ever made in terms of printing. However, again, the elephant in the room is still the helmet holes. I know it's getting kind of annoying to discuss at this point, but there's really no way around it. There's a lot of people that really like them, there's a lot of people that don't like them, and there's a lot of people that claim they like them just because it makes them feel different, and I myself, I don't like them, and I'm not afraid to say that. If these newer phase 2 clone troopers were the only clone troopers in my collection, I wouldn't mind the helmet holes. However, when I compare them to my clone troopers from 2014, yeah, it is pretty disappointing just because the 2014 clone troopers look so good. But it does come down to personal preference. I'm not going to go way out of my way to complain about them, even though I don't really like them. However, there is one thing with them in this set that does frustrate me a lot more than with them in the other sets, and that is that there aren't any helmet accessories included. LEGO's argument is that they have the helmet holes for playability with the helmet accessories. However, helmet accessories are nowhere to be seen in this set. I think it would have been so easy for LEGO to include a little bag of helmet accessories like you see here to add some customization with the clone troopers and, you know, validate their point of why they have the helmet holes. However, no, there are no helmet accessories to be seen anywhere, and I just think that's a bit frustrating considering the fact that the only reason they have them is for quote-unquote playability. But again, it comes down to personal preference, and my personal preference is I just don't really prefer them. But other than that, I think the troopers look absolutely incredible, and I'm also sure that most of you guys will have some helmet accessories in your collection so you can customize them as you please. Now moving on to the actual builds, there are a lot to go over. Starting off with the clones, first up here you have this little barricade in this little box, and inside the little box is going to be a little printed grenade or detonator piece, whatever you want to call it. And then you get this little barricade that I think is a super awesome looking build. No, it's not not quite like the one that we saw in 2007, however, I still think it looks really cool. And on the top, there's going to be this little stud shooter that shoots really far, and you can lose the piece very easily. And there are also clips on the back where you can put the clone trooper's blaster and stand him behind it like he is manning the barricade. And then the coolest thing about this barricade to me is that both of these shields can pop off and the clones can actually hold them. And in a way, I guess you could say they resemble a riot shield, and it just looks super awesome, especially when they're holding their shield and their blaster. I think this is a really cool feature that doubles as a barricade and as accessories. And then next up here we have the clone BARC speeder, and I'm not gonna lie, in the reveal images I thought this speeder looked really bad, and in person it's not great, but it's not as bad as I was expecting it to look. And the main reason it doesn't look good is just because the bars on the front are a little bit too short, although it does look a little bit better when you fit the clones on there. And on the back there are these two pieces that can hold their blasters, and there are also two stud shooters on the side that you can fire as you please. I messed around with it a bit and I found this pretty easy solution to make it look a lot better actually. And really you have to take the whole front section apart and just grab the gray piece that connects the two bars together and put it on the underside, and then from there put those triangle pieces back on and then put the blasters on the end, and it makes the middle section of the front look a lot longer, which just makes it look more proportionate and a lot cooler in my opinion. So if you really don't like how the speeder looks, that is a pretty easy way to fix it. Now moving on to the droid builds, first up here we have the STAP, and this is a completely brand new design from what we've seen in the past, and I do have to say LEGO definitely blew it out of the water with this new design. Here it is compared to the older one, and you can tell it's just a lot sleeker and a lot more accurate looking, and my favorite part about it is that it stands on a clear circle piece and not just a brick like the older ones did. And then next up here we have the main build, which is the Tri-Droid, and I have to say this thing looks really awesome as well. As expected with a Tri-Droid, the top of it can spin around, and if you pop the dome piece off, there's actually this little pink transparent piece in there, which I guess is supposed to represent like the droid's brain, which is a really cool little Easter egg they hid in there. And then right underneath the eyes there are the flick fire missiles that you can fire as you please, and this definitely does bring back some memories. We don't usually see flick fire missiles very often anymore. And then lastly, the legs can move as expected, however there aren't really very many ways to pose it besides just having all four of them level on the ground. You can't really make it look like it's walking or anything because it'll just fall over. However, that doesn't really matter because I think it looks best in its normal stance anyways, and obviously it's not minifigure scale, however it does look really cool when you have the clone troopers underneath it like they're shooting up at it. And honestly, I'd say every build in this set looks really cool. Really the only downside in terms of builds is the speeder, however there is that really simple little fix I showed to make it look a lot better, and then all the other builds and the minifigures are almost perfect. From the new STAP design to the new battle droids to of course the Tri-Droid and the barricade, all the builds are just really nice, especially for only $30. However, again, like I said earlier, it does really frustrate me how they did not include any helmet accessories, and their argument for the helmet holes is that they're 4 helmet accessories, but really that's the only downside about this set to me, is just LEGO not including accessories. So because of that, I'm gonna give it a 9.5 out of 10. I think this is an incredible playset and one of the best army builders that we have ever seen. Let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below, and if you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75375 Millennium Falcon. This set just released on March 1st with 921 pieces and a retail price of $85 US. This set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, and it is also part of LEGO Star Wars' new Starship collection, which is really just mini scale. They really did kind of ruin this theme by just limiting it to starships, but I might make another video on that in the future. Now, if you've watched my other March set reviews, you know that I really like the new 25th anniversary box art. I love the metallic blue, and I'm just happy that LEGO is adding some color into their box arts again. And opening up the box, you're gonna find 11 numbered bags, as well as your instruction manual and no sticker sheet, surprisingly. On the front of the instructions, there's going to be a cool little rendering of the Millennium Falcon at this cool angle, and then in the first few pages, like the other mini scale sets, you're gonna see some information about the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars, which is a really fun read that you can pause and do so if you want. And then you're going to have this 25th anniversary art and hop straight into your building process. Now, like the other recent mini-scale sets, throughout the instructions there are these little pop-up paragraphs that tell you some of the Easter eggs that are hidden inside the model, and in this one there's actually 3 separate ones. One is R2-D2, C-3PO, and Chewbacca, the other is Han Solo, Princess Leia, and C-3PO, and then the last one is Obi-Wan Kenobi training Luke Skywalker. Unfortunately, all of these do get covered up, and once the model is finished you can't access them, but it still is really cool that LEGO is hiding some Easter eggs like this inside of their builds. And speaking of the build, it looks incredible. incredible. I think this is without a doubt the best set from this March wave. Some parts of the build were actually pretty frustrating and kind of tedious at some points, but the end model definitely makes up for that. Unlike the other midi scale sets, as you can see here, the stand is at a slight angle, which is very simple but gives it such a nice look. And then as expected, it comes with a printed plaque as well as a printed 25th anniversary brick. On the front of the model, these 4 circle tile pieces right here are actually printed. I remember when I saw the reveal pictures, I thought these were actually stickers, but no, they're printed, and that was a nice surprise. And also just the rest of the front end is very highly detailed and has a really impressive shaping. The cockpit is also a printed piece, which looks absolutely incredible. However, there is this pretty noticeable gap right behind the cockpit, and that's actually my only complaint with this set, is just this little tiny gap right here. It does seem like LEGO did the best job to their ability to kind of cover up this gap, but it is still noticeable, and if I have a complaint with this set, it's literally just this right here. And speaking of gaps and shaping, throughout the set, there are some cool little techniques to cover up what would be some big gaps. The radar dish can turn a little bit side to side and move up and down, but it's pretty much just made to stay in place. The main turret on top can also move up and down to reveal another little printed tile, although sadly it can't spin around, it can only just move up and down. The middle sections look really nice too, and on the sides here there is another printed piece to represent the docking bay. I'm probably wrong, I honestly forgot what this part of the ship is called, but there are printed pieces on either side. And then towards the back, the vents are also yet more printed pieces, which is really nice. They didn't give us printed pieces on either the Invisible Hand or the Tantive IV, but I'm happy to see them on this set. And then lastly, the back engines look really nice as well. This 2-piece right here was one of the frustrating parts of the build that I mentioned earlier, as you have to stick some Technic pins inside of it, and it is pretty hard, but the end result is really nice. And if you're wondering what the bottom of the ship looks like, it's fairly detailed as well. The bottom turret isn't included because it would be where the stand actually fits onto the set. And when you take it off the stand, the set is overall pretty bulky and just feels high quality. And it actually has some level of swooshability and is actually pretty fun to play around with. Compared to the other 2 mini scale sets released alongside of it, it's a lot more detailed and just a lot higher quality in my opinion. If you're looking to get into mini scale out of these 3 sets, I would highly recommend the Falcon. Even though it's the most expensive one at $85, I still think it's pretty much worth it. I know some people think $85 is overpriced for this set, and yeah, I think it could have maybe been $80, but I don't mind because the model just looks so good. Although I still think the Executor from last year is the best mini scale set so far, this Millennium Falcon is definitely second. I'm feeling a very solid 9.8 out of 10 for this set. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75376 Tantive IV. This set will be releasing on March 1st with 654 pieces and a retail price of $80 US. And as many of you know, this set is celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, and which is also part of LEGO's new revived line of midi scale sets, which is also now called the Starship Collection, which I will forever think is pretty dumb. It's always going to be midi scale to me. On the upside though, with these 25th anniversary sets, the box art looks incredible. The metallic silverish blue that goes along the bottom of these 18 plus sets just looks very nice, and I'm very appreciative that LEGO is finally making their box art more vibrant again. And now digging into the box, you're going to find 7 numbered bags as well as your instruction manual and a sticker sheet and a few loose pieces. The front of the instruction manual actually does look really cool with this awesome head-on view of the Tantive IV, and then on the first few pages you're going to find some information about the Tantive IV in Star Wars, which is a really cool read that you can pause and look at if you want. And then there's this really awesome 25th anniversary art, and then right from that you're gonna hop straight into your building process. And throughout the building process, like the Invisible Hand, there are these little pop-up paragraphs throughout that show some Easter eggs that are hidden in these builds. This one here is showing that these studs are supposed to represent R2-D2, Princess Leia, and C-3PO. However, unfortunately, literally in the very next step, they get completely covered up so you can't actually see them, but it's cool that there is an Easter egg hidden inside the ship. And then this next one here is showing that in the escape pod area, one side has 3 escape pods and the other side has 4, suggesting that one of the escape pods is missing because it is the one that C-3PO and R2-D2 took to Tatooine. Now moving on to the actual model itself, I have to say I'm a bit underwhelmed or disappointed, and the reason for that is because out of all of the March sets, this was actually the one that I was most looking forward to, and I don't think they did the best of job, but we will get into that. On the bright side though, the stand is very nice looking. Like all modern UCS sets and midi scale sets, these stands are very sleek again, very appealing. And as you can see here, it has a printed Tantive IV plaque as well as a printed 25th anniversary brick, and you can actually take off the grill piece and sit the 25th anniversary brick directly onto the stand if that's what you prefer, but I personally think it looks a lot better if the brick is not on the stand. The way it connects to the Tantive IV is by these two Technic pins, which is different from the Invisible Hand and the Super Star Destroyer, but I actually think I like it more. It's a lot easier to take on and off, and it holds it a lot better as I knock off a piece on the top there. And then obviously the back side of the stand is just the bottom sides of the plates and the bricks, which definitely might bother some people, but I don't really care. The very front of the ship is unfortunately way too small, and that is one of the main downsides for me. If you just Google pictures of the Tantive IV, you can see that the front area is clearly a lot bigger than what LEGO made it here, and it really just kind of throws off the overall proportions of the whole entire ship. It's definitely most noticeable when you're looking at it either directly from the side or directly from the top. But on the bright side though, there are two stickers on either side that add some detail if you can put them on straight, and then from there you're going to have some nice shaping to these two turrets that look really good. You can actually turn them and point them up and down, and I think this is really awesome because you can sort of mix up how you display it and give it sort of this action look. Same thing with the four turrets that are directly behind them. You can turn them and point them however you want, and then right under that you're going to find the escape pods that I mentioned earlier, where you can see that one side has 4 and the other side having 3, suggesting that C-3PO and R2-D2 took one to Tatooine. Now this middle section is another part that I think is a bit too small. I honestly think it could have been one stud wider on each side. I mean, it definitely doesn't look bad, and it's definitely not as big of a deal as the front area is. However, I still thought it was worth noting. Moving on to the back middle, this is unfortunately another part that I think they didn't do to the best of their ability, and that's because, well, it's just too flat. Again, if you look at actual pictures of the Tantive IV, there's definitely some height and level changes towards the back middle portion, and all of the other LEGO Tantive IVs have not had a problem with this, but on this one, it's just flat. There's no shaping or height changes at all, and honestly, to me at least, this is the biggest flaw in this build because it really does take away from the look of the Tantive IV. On the bright side though, there are some nice red pieces underneath that give it a nice look and some nice shaping, and then right underneath that, you're going to have the docking bays, and they look really good, and they're just the cylinder pieces that can come on and off pretty easily. The main sensor array on top is also another pretty cool feature. It's very simple yet effective, and you can spin it around and pose it however you want to sort of maximize your display. And then the best part about this build is without a doubt the engines. They look absolutely incredible. There are 4 stickers on the top and the bottom that could be repetitive to some people, but I didn't find it very repetitive because you don't put them on back to back anyways. And in the end, despite being stickers, they still had some great detail back here. And then on both sides of the engines, you're gonna find some great greebling that is very effective and adds a lot of detail back here. And then the actual engine thrusters themselves just look absolutely awesome. I don't think LEGO could make this engine area any better. I think they got it down 100% perfectly. Really, the only huge flaw is that middle portion that I mentioned, which is too flat, and then the front portion as well being too small. I mean, I wish LEGO would have just found a way to make the front portion a bit bigger and just to make the middle portion a little bit more detailed and not so flat. So again, it definitely has its flaws in terms of accuracy, but it definitely doesn't look terrible on display. I mean, in my opinion, I think it looks pretty good. I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again, just because it's not accurate doesn't mean it looks bad. Yes, we obviously want stuff to be accurate, and I'm a sucker for accuracy, but it definitely does not look bad on display. Now for $80, would I recommend this to you? No, probably not. I mean, if you're collecting all the mini scale sets and you want to complete your collection, go ahead. I think this one would look good next to the Super Star Destroyer. However, if you don't have any of the mini scale sets yet and you're looking to get one, I'd say this should be your last option. I would definitely recommend the Super Star Destroyer or the Invisible Hand over this. I'm feeling a generous 8.5 for this set. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75377 Invisible Hand. This set will be releasing on March 1st with 557 pieces and a retail price of $50 US, and it's part of LEGO's new quote-unquote Starship collection, but it's really just mini-scale, and honestly mini-scale is just a better term to use anyways. And as most of you guys know, this set is part of celebrating LEGO Star Wars' 25th anniversary, hence the 25th anniversary logo at the top of the box. And speaking of the box, one thing I gotta say is that this new 25th anniversary box art art is absolutely beautiful. I love how they're finally mixing up the box art on these 18 plus sets, adding this nice sort of metallic blue along the bottom and not just keeping them all black. I think it makes them stand out and it looks really appealing. And now digging into the box, on the inside you're going to find 5 numbered bags and your instruction manual. And taking a look at the instruction manual, on the inside you're going to find some really cool information about the ship and some really awesome graphics from Revenge of the Sith. And you can pause and check it out if you want. It is a pretty enjoyable read. And then right before the building process, you're going to see this really nice graphic of the LEGO Star Wars 25th anniversary logo, and then from there you can start building your set. And also at some points throughout the build there are these paragraphs at the bottom of the pages that sort of point out Easter eggs in the ship, and this one here is actually pointing out that there is supposed to be an MTT and Anakin and Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptors in the hangar. And this was really pleasing for me to see because I'm gonna be honest, I did not know this set was even going to include a hangar when it first got revealed. I thought it was just going to be a completely solid ship with just some transparent pieces on the side to represent a hangar, but no, there's actually a whole interior, and that was really pleasing to see. Now moving on to the actual model itself, it looks really good, but it's not perfect. And the first thing I gotta point out is that the middle section, to me at least, is very overly detailed. I never thought that I'd find myself complaining that a LEGO Star Wars set is quote unquote too detailed, but here I am. There's just so much going on in the middle section that the model is almost like visually suffering because there's so many different colored pieces here. But more on that in a little bit. The first thing I actually want to go in depth on is the stand, which looks really good. I mean, as you'd expect with an 18 plus set, the stand is very sleek, and as you can see here, it does come with a little printed invisible hand plaque as well as a printed 25th anniversary brick. And if you want, you can actually take the 25th anniversary brick and sit it on the stand, and take the grill piece that was on the studs and sit it on the plaque, but I personally think it looks better with the 25th anniversary brick sitting next to it and not on the stand. And if you're wondering what the backside looks like, it's just the bottom side of the plates, nothing too crazy. And as you'd expect, the model is very easy to take on and off the stand and move around however you'd want. Taking a look at the front of the ship here, it does look pretty good. I think they did a pretty decent job at getting the curvature right. I wish they would have found a way to make the very front tip a little bit longer and kind of come to more of a point, but the nose of the invisible hand does have a pretty crazy shape, and I think LEGO did a pretty good job at replicating it in the best of their abilities. And up at the top here, you can see that little green transparent piece, and that is actually supposed to be the command bridge that Anakin and Obi-Wan fought General Grievous inside of. And yes, if you're wondering, it's just a transparent tile that is being held on by that little clip. And now moving on to the middle section, the part that I said was overly detailed. On each side, you are going to find 2 stickers, one being a separatist symbol and then a sort of like a caution symbol with black and yellow bars. And then you're just going to have all of these different colored pieces that are very distracting when you're looking at it up close. From far away, the model looks incredible, like up on a high shelf or something. It's going to look really good on display, but when you get up close and analyze the details and try to appreciate the details, there's just a lot going on. Yes, the invisible hand does have very faint light and dark gray stripes throughout the middle and front section of the ship, and I really applaud LEGO for capturing that. However, there is some other pieces here that just aren't very necessary. Most obviously, those bright sand yellow pieces, I really think those should have just been gray, and maybe a few blue pieces here and there. Again, I like the stripes and I like how LEGO captured it, but just some of this other stuff is just a bit too much. And I applaud LEGO for the effort of detail, but I really think they just sort of overdid it here. On the bright side though, towards the bottom of the middle section, there are these transparent yellow pieces that are supposed to represent lights, and they add some great detail down here at the bottom and definitely give the model a good sense of scale. And those lights will continue up from the bottom towards the back middle around the ground forces command section, and again, they just add some great detail under all of the bricks. And speaking of the back and front halves of the ship, yes, it can split apart into 2 pieces like it does in the movie. It's a very simple design, it's just held in by 4 clips, but it works really well and it's a very fun feature. And then towards the back half of the model, it definitely gets cleaned up a bit from the over detailed middle section. The curvature and shaping back here is really nice, as well as the gray and blue stripes. And then right under that, again, you're going to have that hangar bay, which just looks so awesome with these transparent pieces. The fact that you can actually see inside there and see what's supposed to be an MTT and Anakin and Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptors is just really cool, and it just makes it feel more alive and more interactive. The engines on the back also look great. They're very simple, but I think LEGO did a really great job at capturing them at such a small scale, not to mention how, again, the shaping back here is just really nice. I think LEGO did a great job. And then on the bottom, there is this piece sticking out that kind of looks like the observation tower, but on the bottom side, and I have no idea what this is. is. I even whipped out my Star Wars Revenge of the Sith cross-section book and then flipped to this giant section about the Invisible Hand, and it has all of the information that you could want about this ship, except for what that bottom portion is. It's just not shown. So if any of you guys know what this is supposed to be, let me know in the comments, because I have no idea. And then moving on to the most unique part of this ship, which is the observation deck, which is actually nicknamed the Wizard's Tower if you didn't know. It looks really great. It uses a very small amount of pieces, but LEGO did a good job at designing it, and I'm sure you've seen that in other people's reviews that the observation deck does slightly lean forward, and it does, but it's really not noticeable at all, and definitely not as big of a deal as other people have made it out to be. I mean, if you're farther away than like 10 inches from this thing, you're not going to notice it, so I think it's fine. And then the last thing I want to talk about is what's probably been on your guys' mind the whole time, and that is the scale of this thing. And yes, it is pretty small. Here it is next to a minifigure for comparison. It's pretty small, but I definitely don't think it's too small for $50. I think for $50, it's a perfect size. And here it is compared to the midi-scale Executor that came out last year, which is a $70 set, so obviously it's going to be significantly bigger. And again, I think the Invisible Hand is a perfect size for $50. However, I wish LEGO would have just gone ahead and made it $70 and made it a bit bigger, because if they would have done that, the middle section that is overly detailed, in my opinion, would have been able to have been fleshed out more, and the details wouldn't be so overwhelming and distracting. But I mean, other than that, I have no complaints at all about this model. I think it looks absolutely incredible, especially from far away. It's just a great display piece. It really is just that middle section, which is just ever so slightly too detailed. And like I just said, I think if this set was maybe $70, it could have been a bit bigger and the amount of details wouldn't be so distracting. And if they really wanted to keep it at $50, I think they could have left out some pieces like those yellow ones and maybe some of the blue ones towards the front as well. So because of that, I'm going to give this set a 9.5 out of 10. Every single part of this set is absolutely incredible, from the observation deck to the engines to the shaping. It's just that middle section which really throws me off. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below, and if you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75379 R2-D2. This set will be releasing on March 1st with 1,050 pieces and a retail price of $100. Now, as many of you guys know, this set is celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, hence the logo on the box, and because of that, included in this set is a 25th anniversary Darth Malak minifigure, which is definitely pretty out of the blue, but hey, I'm not complaining, and I don't think anyone else is either. Now, I've said this for all of the 25th anniversary sets so far, but man, the box art just looks so good, and I think without a doubt this R2-D2 has the best box art out of any of the March sets, and honestly I'm gonna go so far to say that this is probably my new favorite box art of all time. It used to be the 2012 white Darth Maul box art, but no, this one just completely overtakes that. The combination of the tan along with the metallic blue just looks so appealing, and like some of the other 25th anniversary sets, I almost didn't want to open it just because the box art looks so good, but that's what I had to do for this review. And on the inside you're going to find 12 numbered bags, as well as your instructions and a sticker sheet. On the front of the instructions, you're going to find a pretty decent rendering of the set, along with some nice 25th anniversary art, and then from there you're going to go straight into the building process. And then in the very back, you're going to find a cool little picture that's comparing R2-D2 in Star Wars to the actual LEGO model. And speaking of R2-D2, my R2-D2 that came in this set has a very crooked head print. It's definitely not as bad as some of the other astromech head prints I've seen, but when I put it together, I was pretty annoyed. But on the bright side, he has nice printing on the front and the back, and he's going to be able to sit on the stand, which has a printed plaque that looks really nice. You can pause and read it if you want, and this is definitely a significant upgrade from the 2021 model, because that one had a sticker for the plaque and this one is printed, and it's just a lot nicer. Next up here we have Darth Malak, and he looks really awesome. I honestly think LEGO did a perfect job. Like I said earlier, this is very out of the blue. LEGO hasn't made any type of Old Republic material since 2014, and it's just really strange, but hey, maybe this means that a door has been opened for us to possibly get more Old Republic figures and sets in the future. Probably not, but hey, this figure does kind of get my hopes up. And just like the other 25th anniversary figures, he comes with a little printed plaque on a stand, and there is a 4x4 plate to where you can connect it to the stands of the other 25th anniversary minifigures. Now, the model itself looks pretty incredible. On the front, there's going to be some nice detailing with some stickers, and I'm never super against stickers, especially if they're bigger ones that are easier to put on, but like you've seen others point out, the problem with these stickers not being the right shade of color compared to the actual pieces is real. As you can see in this shot, the stickers are a lighter white compared to the more creamish color of the pieces, and it definitely does stand out. I hope LEGO finds a way to fix this soon. The back is more cleaned up. There's just a lot of tiled off pieces back here, and then at the bottom you're going to have two more stickers that have the same problem as the front ones. Their color is just a slight shade off from the color of the pieces, and it does really stand out. The legs, on the other hand, look incredible. There's a lot of detailing on them. I wish LEGO could have tiled off some areas a bit more just to make it look a little bit more clean, but they still look really good as they are, and so do the feet. They are very nicely detailed as well, with these nice rope pieces that represent some cables, and it just looks really good. When you pick it up, they do seem a bit loose and maybe like they're not attached on all the way, but then when you sit the model down, its weight kind of just pushes down onto the feet and they're not loose anymore. Taking a look at the head, it can spin all the way around and you can pose it however you want, and then on the front around his eye area, or his sensors I guess, is actually where my one main problem for this set lies, and that is with the black piece that is supposed to represent his eye. The whole time I've had this set, I've just been looking at this and something has just felt so off, and I've determined that it's because the black piece is just too big relative to the size of his head, and to me at least, it kind of falls in this like uncanny valley situation where it kind of makes R2-D2 look a bit lifeless and not like the fun droid that we're used to. It might just be me, but ever since I've built this set, I've just felt that the eye is just too big and it looks kind of strange. On the bright side though, on the very top of the head, there is a printed disc piece that looks incredible. I'm so happy this is printed, and then there's going to be some more minor detailing on the back. Now you might be wondering where R2-D2's third leg is and his arms, and they actually come built separately as attachments. His third leg is a pretty cool design and has a Technic pin at the top where you can just connect it to the bottom of R2-D2, and it looks really good. I actually don't mind it being an extension rather than just being inside his body and having a mechanism to slide out. His arms are sort of the same way. There are these two tile pieces that you have to pop off on either side, and then from there you can grab the arm extensions and put them on either side. Then lastly, grab his periscope and put it on the top of his head, and this is actually a really great way to display the model. It looks awesome. At first I was very skeptical of his arms and his periscope and his third leg coming as attachments, but now that I actually have the set and have it built, I don't mind it at all. I think it's pretty cool. The only slight downside is that when they're not attached, you're gonna have to keep up with them, and there shouldn't be a problem for collectors, but for kids that are planning on playing with this set, this probably will be a problem. I'd imagine that most kids would probably lose these, but despite that, I think it's really cool, and it's a pretty nice feature to make him look really awesome on display. Now the last thing I want to mention is the price, and that is that I feel like this set is a little bit small for $100. Here it is compared to the $200 Chewbacca from last year, and they actually look really good together. They're relatively actually to scale with one another, and it just looks really awesome on display, but that's beside the point. This Chewbacca has about 2,300 pieces and retails for $200, and this R2-D2 has right at 1,000 and retails for $100, and since the Chewbacca can get an extra 300 pieces and still be $200, I think since this is right at 1,000 and most of the pieces being small, it could have been maybe 90 or even 85, but it's not that big of a deal because I'm sure it'll be easy to find on sale, and even for $100, I think this would be worth it for some people because it's a super fun build and it's really fun to display. And the inclusion of the 25th anniversary Darth Malak is just so awesome. Even though it's out of the blue, it's really cool, and I know a lot of people are gonna love this figure. So I'm feeling a pretty solid 9.5 out of 10 on this set. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75387 boarding the Tantive IV. And yes, it's pronounced Tantive, not Tantive E. I have no idea who came up with that, but that's just stupid. Anyways, this set will be releasing on March 1st with 502 pieces and a retail price of $55. And as some of you might know, this set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, hence the logo on the box. And because of that, it is including an exclusive 25th anniversary 5s figure. And I've said this before and I'm gonna say it again, but man, the box art on these 25th anniversary sets just looks absolutely incredible. I'm so happy that for as of now at least, LEGO is sort of starting to stray away from the over minimalistic box arts that we had from like 2022 to 2023, and once again giving us very fun and vibrant box art. It's so good that I almost don't even want to open it, but that's what I gotta do for this review. And digging into it, you're going to find 5 separate bags as well as your instruction manual, and Darth Vader and 5s are both in the last bag, which ironically happens to be bag number 5. Taking a look at the instruction instructions, on the first few pages, you're just going to have some random LEGO advertising, and then you're going to hop straight into the building process. And then on the very last pages, you're going to find a picture showing off that if you buy 2 of these sets, you can connect them and make a longer hallway, and then some cool advertising for the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars. Moving on to the minifigures, first up here we have the Rebel Fleet Troopers, and these guys look great, and their design is really simple but without flaw. A lot of people said they should have had dual molded legs, and I definitely think they would have benefited from dual molded legs. However, the absence of them really does not bother me one bit. I always love Rebel Fleet Troopers, but there kind of is a bias there because the 2008 Rebel Battle Pack was my first ever LEGO Star Wars set, and also they both have double-sided faces, with the second face being an angry face. Next up here we have Captain Antilles, and just like the Rebel Fleet Troopers, he looks very good as well. Again, like others have said, he could have benefited from dual molded legs, but it doesn't bother me. I think this is a great figure, and he as well has a double-sided face. And then next up here we have the Stormtroopers, and yes, they're still using the oversized dual molded helmets. It's been years now and LEGO is still using these, and they still look awful, and there's really not even an excuse for it. Usually for things of this manner, LEGO has excuses or explanations about why they do it, but there's no explanation for this helmet. It just looks bad and they keep on using it. But on the upside, every other part of these figures looks great, the printing is incredible, and you do get 2 of them in this set, both with different head prints. And then next up here we have Darth Vader, and this is the same Darth Vader that LEGO has been using for a few years now, and he looks great. He's got detail all over, and he's got really good arm printing, and he has very nice head prints on both the front and the back. And then lastly, we have the figure that you guys have all been waiting to see, which is ARC Trooper 5's, and right off the bat, I have to say he actually looks pretty good. Yes, his helmet print is far from accurate, and I'm definitely a sucker for accuracy. However, it's still symmetrical and it doesn't look sloppy like some of the other recent clone troopers, and then the rest of his printing looks incredible as well. His arm printing is great, and his torso printing is great, and then very surprisingly, his printed comma doesn't look bad at all. I think obviously the reason is because his comma has a different shape, and it sort of goes in like a triangle towards the middle, and as a print, it definitely does not represent a comma like it should, and it definitely should be a physical one. However, it definitely doesn't look as bad as some of the others like Captain Rex or Commander Fox. And then around back, he's gonna have a custom brick-built backpack with printing underneath that as well, and then underneath his helmet, you're gonna find a basically near perfect printed face. It looks absolutely incredible. Now, everything I've said about this figure has been pretty good so far, but that definitely doesn't mean that it's without flaw, because there's one really bad thing about him, and that is his pauldron. It looks absolutely terrible. It just sticks straight out on both sides and makes him look like he has wings on its neck or something, and I've seen other people say that you have to sort of fold it down yourself, and that just doesn't work. It just flops right back up and is just still straight, and it just looks flat out bad. I think LEGO should have used a custom plastic one, but other than that, I think the rest of this figure looks good. Yes, I wish he would have had a physical waist cape and accurate helmet printing, but he doesn't look bad. The only thing that looks bad on him is his pauldron, and he does come with this little 25th anniversary stand that has this nice print on it, and also included is a black 2x4 plate so you can connect it to the other 25th anniversary figure stands, similar to what they did in 2019 with the 20th anniversary figures. And overall, I think this minifigure lineup is perfect for this set. Really, the only bad figures in this set are those stormtroopers, not even the stormtroopers, literally just their helmets, and then obviously Fives' his pauldron, but all the other minifigures are great, and getting 7 minifigures in a $50 set is just unheard of nowadays. Now moving on to the actual hallway build, it looks really nice. There's lots of studs, so you can really place the figures in any way you want on here, but there's also an even balance between studs and tile, and it looks really good. On the sides here, there are these 4 levers that when you turn, a little tile pops up from the floor, and you can place your fleet troopers and your stormtroopers to where they are sitting on these tiles, and then turn the levers to make them pop off, and it's really fun to do. This is a great play feature. You can really actually act out the fight to where when one of them gets hit, they fly off the floor, and even as a collector that mainly displays my sets, I still think this is very fun to play with. The door at the end of the hallway is printed, and when you open it, there are some red transparent pieces that sort of suggest that it had been blasted open, and the way it works is that on the back side, there is this little lever you can turn, and the whole door just slides over, and this mechanism actually goes basically all the way down the whole entire hallway on the back side, and there is another lever at the end that you can also use to open it, but every time I've tried, it just ends up getting caught, so I use the one that's closest to the door. But no matter which lever you use, it is really fun to play with. This is such a cool feature, and the fact that they actually included some red transparent pieces to make it look like it had been blasted open is just so cool. Right above the door, there is a little sticker on a 1x2 tile, and then from there, the rest of the hallway is incredibly detailed. There are a few stickers throughout that definitely give it a good look, and I'm not opposed to stickers, but the ones on those cheese slopes are pretty hard to put on, and I wish they would have just just been printed to save the hassle of putting them on, but they still look good on the final result. And then at the very end, you're going to have another doorway, which has nothing on the other side, but it still looks good. And as you saw earlier, there's nothing to see on the backside besides the door opening mechanism. On the top here, there are some gray plates, which look fine, but like others, I wish they would have been tiled off with white tiles. At first, they're not very noticeable at all, but after a while, they do get kind of distracting. The set does include some extra pins that you can put on the end here, to where if you bought 2 of these, you could connect them and make one long hallway, just like the picture from the instructions, and I think that's a great feature if you end up buying 2 of these. Now, I do have one main complaint about this build, and that is that the actual floor space is pretty narrow compared to the wall at the end, which kind of just sticks out awkwardly, leaving this pretty large space between the edge of the floor and the end of the wall, which again just kind of looks awkward. I know they had to make the wall pretty long so the door mechanism would have enough room to work, so as a compromise for that, I wish they would have made the floor maybe like 1 or 2 studs wider, just to shorten how far the wall in the end sticks out. They also could have maybe extended it with some white pieces to just suggest that there's supposed to be a wall on the other side that also curves upwards. I think either solution would have worked, but in the final product, the floor is pretty narrow compared to how wide the end wall is. And to me personally, it's just kind of awkward looking. Now, the last play feature with this set, and arguably the best play feature, is with this little transparent cylinder piece that you can actually use to make Captain Antilles look like he's being force choked by Darth Vader. And it looks absolutely awesome how you can perfectly recreate this scene in Lego form. And overall, I think this set is incredible. The only downside is the floor space being a little bit too narrow, and then obviously the Stormtrooper helmets, but other than that, it's awesome. The door mechanism is really fun to play with, and the walls are very, very detailed, and it just makes for a really, really awesome display piece and a really fun playset. And the fact that you get 5s included on top of everything else is just a really nice bonus. Even though his pauldron looks terrible, the rest of him is pretty good, and it's just cool to get an extra figure. And would I recommend this set to you guys? Absolutely. I think it's a great deal for $55, especially getting 7 minifigures. And for all of the people in my comments that keep on saying we need more Rebels and Stormtroopers, this is the set for you. So because of that, I'm going to give this set a 9.3 out of 10. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below, and if you're new, please consider subscribing. And if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 40686 Trade Federation Troop Carrier. If you didn't know, this set is actually this year's May 4th LEGO Star Wars GWP, which means gift with purchase. So basically, there's only 2 ways to obtain this set. The first way is to be a LEGO Insider, which is free to sign up for, and go on LEGO's website or to an official LEGO store. It can't be anywhere else. And you have to spend at least $160 on just LEGO Star Wars sets, and by doing that, you will get this set for free as a gift with purchase. Oh, and not to mention, this only runs between May 1st and May 4th, so at the time of me recording this video, you only have about a day and a half left to do this. Or you can go ahead and buy it on the aftermarket, where it's already going for an average price of about $50. Now, do I think this is a good option for a GWP? No, not at all, but I'll talk about that more later. If you didn't know, this set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, with a 25th anniversary Phantom Menace logo at the top right of the box, as well as the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars with a 25th anniversary logo for that at the bottom of the box. Also, I know you guys have heard me say this time and time again, but man, this 25th anniversary box art just looks so good, especially on this set in particular. I think it's probably my favorite one. I love the green Naboo landscape combined with the brown droid carrier and then the metallic blue. It just all looks so nice together. But actually opening up the box and digging in on the inside, you're going to find 3 numbered bags, as well as a loose 2x14 plate and your instruction manual. And speaking of the instruction manual, on the front you're going to have a pretty cool render of the set, and then right on the inside you're going to have some artwork for the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, then jump straight into your building process. As for the minifigures go, first up here we have the battle droid pilots. There's not much to see here. These are the same battle droid pilots that we have been getting for quite a while. I'm pretty sure they were introduced in the early 2010s. And then on top of that, you're going to get 6 normal B1 battle droids. We all know what these look like. There's not a lot to see here, but hey, it's nice to get an army of them. Now here's the build itself, and it looks really good. It's an all brown, which I really like. It's sort of a nod to the original one from back in 2000 or 2001 maybe, I forgot. And then you're also going to get the printed 25th anniversary brick that has been coming in a lot of the sets recently. On the front right here, this guard piece can move up and down just a little bit, and there's also this sort of headlight on the left side that can also move up and down. And as you'd expect, you can grab both of your battle droid pilots and sit them in there right behind each other, and they do look really good up here in the front, sort of piloting the droid carrier. On the back here, as for the droid rack goes, the whole thing can actually slide out, and then here's what the remaining carrier looks like without the rack on it. Pretty bland. end, but it doesn't look bad. And if you're wondering how it works, as you can see here, there's just those green pieces on the edge of the droid rack that can just slide into the droid carrier. And speaking of those green pieces, I'm not sure why they're green. It's kind of random and doesn't look great when you actually slide the rack out, but hey, maybe that's just me. But the rest of the rack looks good, and you can actually fold the sides down like you see here. There's not really a use for this, but hey, you can do it if you want to. And then to load the actual battle droids, you just take them and fold them up into this position right here, and then you sit them on the sides of the rack. And then you can take their blasters and sit them on the front right above that green part that I was just talking about, and then go ahead and slide your rack back onto the droid carrier. And I have to say, the droids do look sort of goofy in this position on the rack, but it doesn't bother me that much. But I did see a lot of people online talking about it. Although overall, I think it looks really good with the two pilots in the front and the droids in the back. It's a great little build. The only problem I have with the build itself is this gap right here between the guns and the actual front of the droid carrier. It just looks kind of weird to me, and also it kind of gives off the appearance that the droid rack is not fully slid into its position, even though it is. And also it causes for very slight sagging of the droid rack. It's extremely hard to notice, a very small nitpick on my end, but it's there. But overall, this set looks really good, and I would love to army build with it if it wasn't a GWP. And like I showed on the aftermarket, it's going for around $35 to $50, which is definitely a fair price. I think if LEGO released it, it would go for about $30, so $35 isn't terrible. But the bad thing is that the set has only been out for 2 days, so the price on the aftermarket is just gonna inevitably keep on going up, which really sucks because I really like this set, and I know there's a lot of people that aren't gonna be able to really get it with that $160 threshold or its price on the aftermarket, which is just unfortunate and why I don't think this was a good option for a GWP. And no, I'm not in any way saying that GWPs can't be good sets. I'm saying that they shouldn't be sets that sort of had high demands, because we've all been wanting LEGO to make Trade Federation stuff for forever, and they finally have in this set, and it's really good, although it's just locked behind this price wall that I don't think is really fair. I think a way better option for a GWP could have been some type of Duel of Fate set, and it also would have just fit the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace a lot better, or maybe even a set like the Podrace diorama right here, although obviously scaled down to be around $30 or $40. But instead we got this set, which on its own, like I've said multiple times, is really good. I just don't think it's very fair for a set like this to be a GWP. I think it should have been something a bit more niche, like the Podrace diorama, or maybe like a Duel of Fate set. But GWP talk aside, the set itself is great. I'm gonna give it a 9.4 out of 10. Like I said, the only problem is that small gap between the rack and the front of the droid carrier. Everything else is great, and I really hope that you guys can get your hands on this set. That being said, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75378 BARC Speeder Escape. This set will be releasing on May 1st, 2024 with 221 pieces and a retail price of $30 US. And as you can see here, it includes the pretty hyped up Keller and Beck minifigure, as well as two 501st Clone Troopers and Grogu, of course. Also, one thing you might notice about the box is that so far this has only been the second set released this year that does not have any type of 25th anniversary art. It's just the normal stripe art that we've been getting for the past few years. Anyways, on the back of the box, you're going to find a nice render of the set along with a few of the play features, and then actually opening up the box and digging in on the inside, you're going to find 3 numbered bags as well as your instruction manual and a sticker sheet with only 4 stickers. Taking a look at the minifigures, first up here we have the two 501st Troopers, which are technically exclusive, I'm pretty sure, because LEGO has never made just plain 501st Troopers with helmet holes. They've made ones that had printed commas and helmet attachments, but these are the first ones they've made with the helmet holes that are just plain. And speaking of the helmet holes, I don't think they're noticeable on these guys at all. I've said time and time again that the helmet holes are only noticeable, to me at least, depending on the helmet printing, and these guys have really good helmet printing that I think takes away from the helmet holes pretty well, unlike on other troopers. And then next up here we have Keller and Beck, who looks really good. He's a pretty unique character that I'm happy that LEGO decided to make, because it never hurts to get more Jedi, and he also includes 2 lightsabers, which looks really cool to me, because honestly I forgot that he used 2 lightsabers in the scene. And then lastly here we have the tiny Grogu minifigure. This is the same Grogu that we have been getting for a while. There's not a lot to see here. Overall, this minifigure lineup is pretty much perfect. It's every character that's in the scene that this set is based off of, and I'm really happy that we actually ended up getting 501st Troopers in this set, because the original rumors said that we were going to get Shock Troopers, and Shock Troopers would have just not fit this set because they weren't even in the scene. Now moving on to the actual builds themselves, first up here we have the lamp that everyone has been memeing online, and despite the attention that is surrounding this thing, it's pretty simple. There's not much going on at all, and honestly, if anything, this was just included as a poor excuse excuse for LEGO to bump this set up to $30 when it could have been $25. Anyways, here's the actual speeder, and I think it looks pretty good. I love the colors on it, although I think the proportions are a bit off. I think the main sort of stem on the speeder is just a bit too long, and also this area in the front with the stud shooters and the fins is just a bit too wide. It just makes the whole thing look a bit disproportional, but regardless, speaking of the front area, there are some fins here and some stud shooters that you can fire as you please, and that will shoot across the room and get lost. And then at the back, there is some nice detailing with 2 stickers that I did a pretty poor job at putting on, as well as some more fins and some nice shaping, and 2 little red transparent pieces that are supposed to represent the engines, which I think look pretty good. The sidecar is connected by these 2 hinges, which if you want allows for it to move up and down. It's not supposed to do this, but I mean, it's there if you want to do it. And speaking of the sidecar itself, it also looks pretty good. As you can see, it has some nice shaping, and Grogu's little pod is in there, and on the front there is another sticker, as well as this curved tile piece that can slightly move forward and backwards. As you'd expect, you can put Keller and Beck in the main driver's seat and Grogu in his little pod, and it looks really cool, although unfortunately, as you can see, there's nowhere to put Keller and Beck's lightsabers, but that's not that big of a deal to me at least. Now, Grogu's little pod can actually pop out, and there is this little clear transparent piece that attaches to the bottom of it so that it can sit upright and sort of appear like it's floating. I think it gives off the effect pretty well, and left behind in the sidecar is a pretty open space where if you wanted to, you can grab both of your clone troopers and actually fit them in the BARC speeder as well. And honestly, I think this looks really awesome, and they look a lot cooler in the speeder than Keller and Beck and Grogu do, although like I said, the sidecar is made for Grogu's pod, so it's just a bit too big for the clone trooper, but it doesn't look bad. Now overall, I think this is a pretty solid playset, although $30 is kind of pushing it for me at least, especially since we currently have the Clone and Droid Battle Pack on shelves right now for $30 as well, which is just a way better value. If I had to recommend one of these 2 sets, it would easily be the Clone and Droid's Battle Pack, but I mean, if you already have that set, this one is not a bad option either. I've also seen some people online mentioning army building with this set because of the 2 501st Troopers, and I have to say, for $30 and only getting 2 of these 501st Troopers, it is not a good army builder at all. I think you should strictly buy this as a playset because that's what it's meant for, and honestly, me personally, I would in no way recommend trying to army build with this unless you can find it for at least under $25, preferably around $20. Anyways, like I said, I think the speeder is a bit disproportional, and I also think $30 is pushing it just a tad bit for me at least, whereas everything else is pretty good, so I'm feeling a pretty solid 8.9 out of 10 for this set. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at a set that I've been waiting a very long time for, being 75380 MOSP Espa Podrace Diorama. This set will be releasing on May 1st with 718 pieces and a pretty outrageous price point of $80 US. Now, as some of you might know, this set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars and the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, with a 25th anniversary LEGO Star Wars logo at the top right corner of the box and a 25th anniversary Phantom Menace logo on the left side of the box, along with a really cool rendering of the set. On the back of the box, you're going to find another angle of the build, as well as a diagram in the bottom left corner showing the dimensions of the set, and a small little picture showing the actual pod race in the Phantom Menace. Now, actually opening up the box and digging in on the inside, you're going to find 6 numbered bags, as well as 2 loose, large tan plates, your instruction manual, and a sticker sheet with 8 stickers. In typical LEGO Star Wars 18+ set fashion, in the opening pages of the instruction manual, you're going to find some information about the build, in this case being the pod race. You can pause and look at it if you want. It was a pretty fun read. Then you're going to have some cool 25th anniversary art, as well as advertising for the upcoming book, and then from there jump straight into your building process. Unfortunately, there are no minifigures in this set, which I will touch on more later, but for now, taking a look at the build, I have some good things to say about it and some not so good things to say about it. First off, I think the terrain is just absolutely incredible. They did a really good job with the rock work, especially on sort of the main wall right here, and the arch looks really good as well. It's almost like a mock builder built this, not LEGO themselves. And if you're wondering how the arch is made, you can remove the whole thing and it's connected by these 2 spinny pieces, and that's what allows it to have the angle that it has. And here is the back of the build if you're wondering what it looks like. The rock work kind of spills over the black border of the diorama, which I think looks pretty cool. And speaking of the black border, on the front you're going to have a printed 25th anniversary brick, as well as a printed LEGO Star Wars tile and a printed diorama quote reading, "Remember, concentrate on the moment, feel, don't think, use your instincts," from Qui-Gon Jinn in the Phantom Menace. The actual floor of the terrain without the pod racers on there looks very, very good as well. They did a very good job at mixing the bright tan and the dark tan and creating a sort of path that the pod racers follow. And speaking of the pod racers, first up here we have Anakin's pod racer, and I think it looks really good. Towards the back here, you're going to have a stud that's supposed to represent Anakin piloting it, as well as 2 stickers on each side. And then from there, the front engine area is very detailed as well. It's pretty impressive how they were able to make this so detailed at such a small scale. Next up here, we have Sebulba's pod racer, which is way more intricate and way more detailed than Anakin's, although I still like Anakin's a bit better. Anyways, as you can see here, the engines look really, really good. There's some nice sticker detailing on there, as well as just lots of small pieces adding some nice detail. And just as seen on Anakin's, towards the back here, there's a little stud that's supposed to represent Sebulba. And if you're wondering how they connect to the build, there's just these transparent pin pieces on the bottom of each pod racer, and they connect onto the build at an angle that makes them look like they're actually flying, and it's pretty cool. It really does give off the effect that they're actually hovering and racing through the canyon. Now, for the most part, that was all of the stuff that's good about the build, and now let's talk about what I don't like. First is that, well, despite the terrain and the pod racers themselves both looking good, the pod racers are actually a bit too big for the terrain. In fact, Sebulba's pod racer cannot even fit underneath the arch. Obviously Anakin's can, but Sebulba's can't, and that kind of makes me really OCD. It sort of takes away from the accuracy and realism that a build like this is supposed to have, because it's supposed to seem like Sebulba's pod racer went through that arch, but in reality it can't even fit through. And then also the no-brainer and the most controversial thing about this set is the price. $80 for this is just absolutely ridiculous. LEGO really had no reason at all to make it over $70. Preferably this should have been $60 because it has 700 pieces, and all of the pieces are very little one stud size pieces besides the ones that make up the border. So I think they might have been able to get away with 70 from some people, but in reality 60 would have been best, and 80 is just way too much. It's awful. I think the least they could have done to justify this price point was include a brand new pod racing Anakin minifigure, as well as a brand new Sebulba minifigure to stand on the side of the border and display with the set. But no, there's no minifigures, just 2 pretty small builds and some terrain for $80. Like I said, the terrain and the builds look very good, it's just not worth $80. There's no way to justify it. And actually here it is compared to the other $80 diorama set, which is also ironically very, very overpriced as well. And honestly, I really think the only thing the indoor speeder chase has over the pod racing one is that it actually has minifigures, and in my opinion the pod race actually has way better terrain than the indoor speeder chase. So it's really just pick your poison in this case. I would not recommend either of these dioramas for their full price of $80. I think they're both great sets, but their prices are just atrocious, although I would heavily recommend them if you could find them on sale for at least $60. Or if you're willing to spend the extra $20 at $100, you could just get the Emperor's Throne Room, which I think is leagues above these 2 other dioramas and actually worth the price. But anyways, back to just the pod racing diorama. Like I said, the price is just atrocious. There's really no way to justify it at all. LEGO is just being very, very greedy here, and I don't like how the pod racers are just too big for the terrain. I think the terrain could have been a bit bigger, or the pod racers could have been a bit smaller, of course with a lowering of the price as well. So because of that, I'm feeling a 7.3 out of 10 for this set. I really, really do think it looks very good and dynamic on display. That price though is just atrocious. So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75381 Droideka. This set will be releasing on May 1st with 583 pieces and a retail price of $60 US. As you might know, this set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, as well as the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, with a little 25th anniversary LEGO Star Wars logo at the top right corner of the box, as well as a 25th anniversary Phantom Menace logo on the left side of the box, along with a pretty cool looking render of the Droideka. On the back of the box, you're going to find a nice layout of this set showing that it can roll up into a ball, as well as some cool pictures showing the Droidekas in the actual Phantom Menace movie scenes, and a little diagram that shows the dimensions of the build. Digging into the box, on the inside you're going to find 6 numbered bags, as well as your instruction manual and a sticker sheet that has quite a few stickers. Inside the instruction manual, you're going to find some cool information about the designers and some information about the Droideka itself in Star Wars that you can pause and read if you'd like to. It was a pretty fun read. Then you're going to see a cool 25th anniversary artwork on the left, as well as some advertising for this new LEGO Star Wars Wars book that's coming out in July. Then from there, you're going to jump straight into your building process. Now, taking a look at the actual build itself, they did an outstanding job. It looks incredible. But first, I want to take a look at the plaque and the controversial minifigure scale Droideka. On the right side, you're going to find this nice little 25th anniversary brick that is in all of the 25th anniversary sets, and then you're going to have a printed display plaque showing all of the information about the Droideka in Star Wars that you can pause and read if you want. And then on the far left side, you're going to have the minifigure scale Droideka. And I have to say, it does not look near as bad as everyone is saying it does. I'm pretty sure that we all sort of know in the back of our heads that LEGO is really not going to be able to perfect a Droideka at this scale without custom molded pieces. Although I have to say, this one right here is one of the better ones they've made. I really do think it does look kind of good. Although one downside is that it can't even begin to roll up into a ball, and another is that I think the gap between the head and the curved part is just a little bit too big. But other than those two things, I do think they did a pretty decent job at this scale. Now back to the actual full scale model itself, again, it just looks really good. On the back here, you're going to find some stickers that I did a bad job at putting on, as well as some really nice shaping and detail representing the back sort of shell, I guess, of the Droideka. They just did a really good job. From every angle, it just looks great, and all of the Technic pins actually match the colors. There's no red or blue ones that stand out and kind of look ugly. They're all either gray or tan, which I really appreciate because it looks really good. Moving down at the top here, you're going to have what I think is probably the best aspect of this build, which is the head. If you haven't seen already, for the eyes, they actually use the Lego lipstick pieces, which is just literally perfect because they do such a really good job at capturing that sort of weird bug-like look that the Droideka head has, and it's cool that they just thought so far out of the box to make the head look absolutely perfect. Down here in the middle, where the sort of bulk of Technic pieces are, you're going to have some plates smoothing out the front, and then all the way down there in the back, you're going to have what represents, I guess, the Droideka's abs. I didn't want to say that because someone else made that joke, but hey, they're there, and it's a pretty cool molded piece. There's also going to be these sort of fins on the back that both have stickers on them. The bottom sort of waist area where the legs connect looks really good as well. There's a good mix of light brown and dark brown pieces with some really nice shaping. Taking a look at the arms, or the guns, I guess, there's going to be a sticker at the top, and then moving down, the actual gun portion just looks really good. They just did an awesome job, and there's also this incredible function where the arms can actually pivot back and forth, just like how the Droidekas are seen in the movie when they're firing, and it looks really cool and it's really fun to play with. And here's a close-up of how it works. It's pretty simple, yet just really effective. It's a great detail. Oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention there's quite a few of these whip pieces that represent the wiring going to the arms, and it adds some really nice detail. The legs look really good too. They're very sturdy, like you can press on this as hard as you want. The legs are not going anywhere, and they're also pretty simple too. They're just held in by this one little Technic pin. Now what you guys have probably all been waiting for, which is to see how this thing actually rolls up into a ball, and inside the instructions there's actually some directions that tell you how you're supposed to do it. First, you have to fold these two pieces down on either arm, and then you have to fold the front half, or the gun portion of the arm, up on either side, then fold the whole upper half of the body down as well as the head, and then for the legs you have to take each individual one off and then flip it upside down to where it's pointing up, and then you have your Droideka in its rolled up formation. And actually, speaking of rolling, it does not roll that very good. I mean, you could get some good ones here and there, but most of the time it just doesn't roll very good. But rolling aside, I honestly think it's very disappointing that it actually can't naturally roll up into a ball. Instead, you have to flip the legs upside down to get it to this position, and I honestly just don't like that at all. Yes, it is nice that it can roll up into a ball, but it does kind of just defeat the purpose, to me at least, that it can't naturally fold up like that. You have to flip the legs upside down, because I mean, let's be honest, nobody is going to display this set in its rolled up position. It just looks kind of ridiculous. As a feature, it's really cool, but displaying like this is just kind of dumb. It looks way better in its upright position, so I really think having it not be able to roll up naturally was kind of just a really wasted functionality that would have been really awesome. But honestly, that's the only complaint I have with this set. Again, in its upright position, it's just really good. I mean, basically perfect. I think they really got every aspect down to an absolute T, and again, even the actual Droideka minifigure does not look that bad to me, and it looks pretty good on the display plaque. This set would be a 10 out of 10 for me, but since it can't naturally roll up into a ball, which really disappoints me, I'm going to take 1 point off and go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10. Do I think this set is worth it for $60? Absolutely. This is a great value for $60, and I think it would make an incredible display piece for anyone that wants one. The fact that it can't naturally roll up into a ball though just kind of disappoints me at least. Let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75382 TIE Interceptor. The set just released on May 1st, 2024 with 1,931 pieces and a retail price of $230, which is actually surprisingly a $10 markdown from the $240 UCS X-Wing from last year. And as you guys might know, this set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, hence the 25th anniversary logo at the top right corner of the box. Also with the bright metallic blue stripe at the bottom, which I think looks really good. On the left side of the box, you're going to have a nice clean render of the set from a top-down view, and then on the back of the box you're going to have another render of the set at a different angle, as well as some pictures showing its play features, an image of the battle over Endor from Return of the Jedi, and a small diagram that shows its dimensions. Now actually digging into the box and opening it up, on the inside you're going to find 22 separately numbered bags, as well as your instruction manual and a very big sticker sheet inside this cardboard case, and then the printed plaque, which I will touch on more later. On the front of the instruction manual you're going to have a top-down view render of the ship, and then in typical UCS set fashion, in the first few pages you're going to have a pretty interesting read about the actual ship and about the LEGO set itself, with the first few pages being some background about the TIE Interceptor with some really awesome artwork, as you can see here, especially there on the left, and then it notes the original version of the UCS TIE Interceptor from back in 2000 and the same designer that designed both of these sets 24 years apart. Then some info about this specific model and a page that's again like the UCS X-Wing showing us how we're supposed to hold the set. Then you're going to have your 25th anniversary art as well as advertising for the book, and then straight from there you're going to jump straight into your building process. Here we have the one lone minifigure in this set being the TIE pilot, and he looks just about as high quality as a UCS minifigure should look. He's got great printing on the front and the back, and then obviously he has arm printing. Unfortunately I don't have the TIE pilot from the 2015 TIE Fighter, or I would compare the two, but just know that this one looks very solid, just like you would expect for a UCS minifigure. And accompanying him is actually a mouse droid, which looks good. I mean, it's just a pretty simple mouse droid, but I think it's a bit unnecessary, which I will touch on more later. Now here's the actual UCS TIE Interceptor itself, and I have to say, for the most part, it looks really good. It's a very good display piece like a UCS set should be, and I also really like the position that it sits at on the stand because it's kind of a nod to the original UCS TIE Interceptor from 2000. Now like I said, the set does look good for the most part, but my main issues, like everyone else, is around the cockpit area. Yes, there's gaps, but I'll get to those in a second. My main problem is that the wing pylons themselves are a bit too tall, or in other words, they come up to the very top of the cockpit when they're not supposed to. If you look at actual reference images of the TIE Interceptor, you can very clearly see that the wing pylons don't go all the way to the top of the actual ball of the cockpit, and on this set they do, and it kind of makes it just look a bit lumpy and off to me. Again, like on the reference photos, the cockpit and the wing pylons look like two separate pieces, with the cockpit almost being a perfect sphere, but in this model it all looks like one piece because the wing pylons are just too tall and it doesn't look that great. The whole center area generally just looks like one big lump. And then like I said, yes, there are a few gaps at the top and the bottom of the windscreen, which are noticeable, but they're not near as big of an issue to me, at least, as the wing pylons are. But shaping aside, the actual detailing on this middle area is extremely well done. As you can see here on the front, there's actually controller pieces on each side to just add some detail, as well as the two middle laser cannons, which actually have red transparent pieces just barely sticking out of them, which I think is really awesome because it semi-simulates that it's actually firing its lasers. And then if you couldn't tell already, yes, that windscreen is a printed piece. You're also going to have some very well done detailing on the back of the model too, with two Technic cylinder pieces back here that are supposed to represent the twin ion engines themselves, and then on top you're going to have a printed hatch piece that looks really good like you'd expect. And of course it can fold open, and despite the hatch being printed, the interior is not printed. As you can see here, it's very complex and detailed, yet polluted with stickers. They do make for great detail and a really cool looking interior, but the actual building process was just such a pain and very tedious to do this, and I don't appreciate it for a UCS set. Anyways, that aside, if you want, you can try to put your TIE pilot in here, but after all, it is a oversized UCS set, so there's really no point, and if you do put him in here, he is pretty hard to get back out. The actual connection points of the pylons to the wings looks very nice. It's very detailed, and I think they did a great job, and there's also just a lot of detail on the inside of the wings in general. As you can see here, they really went out of their way to make this very detailed when I would have expected them to just leave it as the bottom of the plates. The targeting sensors look really good as well. As you can see here, they actually use shovel pieces, which I think is really unique and adds for awesome detail. And then the main laser cannons on the tips of the wings look very good too. I think they're designed very well, and I always love how on these TIE Interceptors the laser cannons just barely stick out from the edge of the wing. It just looks cool to me. And then continuing on with the wings, of course course, the outsides of them just look very good. I mean, I'm sure we all love the TIE Interceptor for its really iconic wing shape, and LEGO just blew it out of the water here. It looks just as mean and aggressive as a TIE Interceptor should look, and up close towards the back of them, there's lots of very nice detail, and one thing I really appreciate is that, as you can see here, they're connected by hinges, which is very nice because they come on and off very easily, when in the past, some of the TIE Fighter wing designs have been very complex and complicated for no reason. The way it sits on the stand is very simple. You can easily just lift it up, and this is what the bottom of it looks like. There's just a hole for the stand to go into. And speaking of the stand itself, like all recent UCS sets, is very minimal and looks great. On the front, you're going to have the plaque that you can pause and read if you want, but actually diving into the plaque, I'm sure you've seen on other people's videos that it's actually sort of glossy now, and not really the same as the previous printed UCS plaques. And I have to say, yeah, like other people, I don't really like it either. I don't like how reflective it is because it creates pretty bad glares, and mine's not very dirty because I wiped it off, but yeah, it does get fingerprints very easily. Here it is compared to the Venator plaque, and I think the Venator plaque looks a lot cleaner and a lot better, and it doesn't get dirty with fingerprints either. Like you'd expect, yes, the TIE Pilot does have a place to sit on the stand and it looks good, but what doesn't look good is how you're supposed to sit the mouse droid and the 25th anniversary brick on the stand as well. To me at least, it just makes the whole front of the stand look very crowded, and I don't like all of that on there. I think it looks best to just display it with the pilot on the stand and then have the 25th anniversary bricks sit off to the side and then just leave the mouse droid out. Hence why I said earlier, I think it's just kind of unnecessary. Now here's what I'm sure some of you guys have been waiting for, which is the comparison of the TIE Interceptor to the X-Wing from last year. And first of all, I have to say, they look absolutely incredible when they are on display next to each other. It is such an incredible combo, although I really can't objectively figure out which one is better. I personally favor the X-Wing just a little bit more because I think they did a better job on the shaping than they did with the TIE Interceptor, obviously, how I mentioned with the pylons and everything. But objectively, they're both very good sets, and if you want a good UCS set and don't want to spend $600, $700, $800 on the big ones, both of these are great options, although there is actually one thing the X-Wing has over the TIE Interceptor, for me at least, and that's that it can actually fit on its stand at different angles, and you can put it sideways to where it looks like it's swooping down low to the ground, and I think that's absolutely incredible. I love displaying it on its side like this. It looks so good, and the TIE Interceptor can't really do this. It can sort of sit on the side of its stand, as you can see here, although it's not really made to, because this bottom wing will sort of budge up to the bottom of the stand and on the ground, so really you're not supposed to do this. It works better with the X-Wing, but you can do it with this set if you want to. But still, they're both incredible sets, only a $10 difference. If you want a $200 UCS set or a cheaper UCS set in general, I would heavily recommend either one of these. I guess it just comes down to if you'd rather have an Imperial set or a Rebel set. But back to just the TIE Interceptor itself, like I said, for the most part, it looks great. My only problem is just the wing pylons being too tall and how the cockpit just looks like one big blob when it's not supposed to, and not to mention the ridiculous amount of stickers on the inside of the cockpit. But the shaping and detailing of the wings really does kind of make up for that, and I also think $230 in today's world is a great deal for this set. So because of that, I'm feeling an 8.7 out of 10. I really wanted to give it a 9 out of 10, but it just didn't feel right because of the wing pylons, so I'm bumping it down to 8.7, which is still in the end a very good rating. So let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75383 Darth Maul's Sith Infiltrator. This set will be releasing on May 1st with 640 pieces and a retail price of $70 US. As you might know, this set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, with a logo shown down here at the bottom left corner of the box, as well as an exclusive 25th anniversary Saw Gerrera minifigure. The other three figures included in this set is the first Episode 1 Darth Maul that we have gotten since 2017, and the first Qui-Gon Jinn that we have gotten since 2017, so it's been a while since LEGO has made these characters. And then as you see, we also get young Anakin Skywalker. Also, I've talked about this time and time again, but I just love this new metallic blue color for the 25th anniversary sets. It's just great. It's some of the best box art that we have had in a very long time. On the back of the box, you're going to find another render of the set along with all the features, and one thing you might have noticed about this box is that for $70, it's actually fairly small, like really small actually. Here it is compared to a $30 set, and you can tell that it's not much bigger, and even more so, here it is compared to what a $70 box looked like back in 2018. You can see that it basically just absolutely dwarfs it, and I get that LEGO is trying to save on unused space inside of their boxes, but at the same time, the smaller boxes just make the sets not as exciting to get, in my opinion. Enough talking about the box though, let's actually dig in, and on the inside you're going to find 7 numbered bags as well as your instruction manual, and surprisingly no sticker sheet, which is always a nice thing to see. Taking a look at the instructions, on the front you're just going to have a render of the set, and then you're going to have some 25th anniversary art, and then from there you're going to jump straight into your building process. Onto the minifigures. First up here we have a brand new young Anakin Skywalker. It's a pretty simple figure, but I think they did a great job with the printing on the front and the back, and he's also got a really fun double-sided face. Next up we have Qui-Gon Jinn, who surprisingly actually has a physical cloth poncho piece, and it looks absolutely incredible. I think LEGO just blew it out of the water with this, and underneath the poncho you're going to find great torso printing and incredible leg printing, as well as really good back printing under the poncho too. He's also got a double-sided face, with the second face being sort of an angry face, and one thing I noticed about this face is that down there at the bottom around his beard, he's actually got some gray hairs down there, which add for some awesome detail. I'm not sure if it's on any of the older Qui-Gon Jinns, but it's on this one and it looks really good. Then next up here we have one of the most controversial figures of this set, being Darth Maul. And no, he does not have pupils, which has been very controversial in the community, and yes, I'm a sucker for accuracy, and obviously having pupils would have made him more accurate, but I actually don't think he looks bad without the pupils at all. In fact, despite it being blatantly inaccurate, I actually think it looks more menacing and more aggressive than it would if he actually had pupils on him. So in that case, for me, the pupils are kind of just take it or leave it. Although one crucial thing he is missing is his hood and his cape. I really don't understand why they did not include that. It's pretty disappointing. And then lastly, we have another very controversial minifigure, being the 25th anniversary Saw Gerrera. This is the first time that LEGO has ever made Saw Gerrera, and he looks absolutely incredible. He's got extremely detailed printing all over his legs, all over his torso. Even his shoulder piece actually has printing on the side of it, which just kind of surprised me. It looks really well, and he's also got this really awesome printed cape that just adds even more detail, and then underneath the cape there's even more printing on his back. And despite this figure looking really good, there is one blatant issue with him, and that is that he's green for some reason. I mean, like I said, he looks good, but he's not supposed to be green, and honestly this confuses me. I have no idea what version of Saw Gerrera that LEGO based this figure off of. Obviously he's not green in Rogue One, he's not green in Rebels, and he's not green in Jedi Fallen Order. I genuinely do not understand where LEGO got the idea to make him green from, but that's what they did. It doesn't look bad, but it's just inaccurate, and I think it would have been better if he was all gray or all black. And like all the other anniversary figures, he does come with this printed plaque that you can sit him on, and comes with a 2x4 plate that you can connect to the other 25th anniversary figures. For the most part, all these minifigures are really good, although for $70, I feel like these 4 figures is just not enough. To make it more complete, I really feel like LEGO should have thrown in the blue version of Padme just to make it feel like you were actually getting $70 worth of stuff, but they didn't, and we only get 4 figures, which is kind of disappointing. And then on top of that, the build itself does not feel like it's worth $70 either. Now, the first thing you might notice is how far it actually leans forward when it's in its landing position. The landing gear is retractable on both sides, which is pretty cool, but I do not like how far it leans down when it is in its landing position. I think the landing gear could have been extended a little bit further and it would have been perfect, but no, it looks kind of awkward because it just leans down so far. Anyways, from the top down, the front does look pretty good. It's very sleek and they did a pretty good job on the shaping. Right here towards the front, there are these 2 tiles that just look like they're just normal pieces, but when you press them down, they actually fire the spring-loaded shooters, which is really cool to me. When I was building these, I had no idea what they were for, but at the end, when I put the spring-loaded shooters in, it was pretty cool. And they're hidden in there very well. You can't even tell they're spring-loaded shooters on the inside. This piece on the top can also open to reveal 3 of the Sith probe droids, and they're pretty simple builds, but they do look good and they do get the job done. But there's also this feature where they can actually fall out of the bottom. As you can see here, there is this little piece that you can slide. If you see, it's just barely sliding when I move my thumb, and when you're holding it flat and you slide that piece out, the bottom door will actually swing open and the probe droids will fall out, which I think is a really fun play feature with a pretty cool mechanism that they designed for it. Now, like I said, when you're looking at the front from the top down, it does look pretty good, but it starts to really go downhill when you look at it directly from the side. To me at least, this area is just way too thick. In universe, the Sith Infiltrator is a very sleek ship, and I just don't really think LEGO captured that here, at least for the front portion. It could have easily been at least 2 plates thinner, even with the probe droids on the inside. As you can see here, they don't even come close to going to the top. There's definitely enough room room there for it to have been at least 2 plates thinner, but no, this front middle section is just really bulky and thick, and I don't think it looks as good as it could. Also, if you're wondering what the bottom looks like, here it is. There's not much to see down here, just the mechanism for the probe droids. Now, despite the front portion not being as good as it could, the back portion looks incredible. There's lots of really good detail at the sides here, where it sort of transitions from the front portion to the wings, and also some nice red transparent pieces that make it look like this actually is a cockpit. And speaking of the cockpit, this top panel piece is actually printed, and it looks really good. The back looks nice as well, with lots and lots of tiles, adding for some really awesome detail and some awesome shaping. And directly at the back, there are 2 little green transparent pieces that are supposed to represent the engines. They're small, but they do get the job done. Now, the whole back portion can actually open up in quite a few different areas to reveal Darth Maul's speeder, which looks really good. It's just tan and brown in a very simple design, but it looks good, and I like it. And as you'd expect, you can grab Darth Maul and sit him on here as well. There aren't any studs, so you have to make him hold on to the handles. The inside of the cockpit is fairly simple. There's just a printed control panel and some other pieces in there adding for a little bit of detail, and then there are 2 clips on either side to be able to hold his double-bladed lightsaber, and then you can actually take Darth Maul on his speeder and slide him back in here, and he fits. There is some minor detailing on the sides of the wings, which looks pretty decent, and as you'd expect, all 4 wings can open up to its flying position, and let me tell you, when it's in its flying position, it does look really good. It's a great display piece if you have a stand like I have here, and also it's just really fun to play with. It's got great swooshability. Now, like I pointed out throughout the video, this set definitely does have its highs and its lows. All the minifigures that are included are very good, besides Saw Gerrera being green for no reason, which does get on my nerves. And again, I wish it did include Padme, because these 4 figures just don't feel like enough for a $70 set, and I know LEGO claims they have reasons to not make Watto anymore. If you know, you know. I'm not going to go into depth explaining. So Padme really would have completed this set, for me at least. It would have made it feel like it was actually worth the $70. That, combined with the issues that I pointed out on the actual ship, with the front portion being too thick and the landing gear making it lean too far forward, is making me feel a pretty generous 8.5 out of 10 for this set. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see it on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75373 Ambush on Mandalore Battle Pack. This set just released on June 1st with 109 pieces and a retail price of $20 US. Now mind you, it did release on June 1st, however it is only available directly through LEGO, so that means on lego.com or through an official LEGO store. It's not going to be until August 1st when it's going to hit your local retail stores like Walmart and Target. Anyways, as you might know, this set does include those long-awaited Super Commandos, which I am super excited to take a look at. And digging into the box, on the inside you're going to find 3 bags along with 3 loose plates and your instruction manual. And right inside the instruction manual, you're going to find some 25th anniversary art and then jump straight into your building process. And then in the back, you're going to have some advertising for the rest of the June sets. And then just 1 page over, you're going to see that this set can actually pair and connect with the Mandalorian bunker set, which I will show towards the end of the video. Taking a look at the figures, first up here we have the 2 Night Owl Mandalorians, and very unsurprisingly, they look really good. Over the past few years, LEGO has absolutely nailed down their Mandalorian designs. Every new Mandalorian figure that's come out recently has just been top notch. LEGO has really nailed it down. And if you're wondering, yes, there is back printing underneath their jetpacks, and also underneath their helmets there's just a plain black head since these are unnamed characters. But still, both these figures look really good. LEGO has just absolutely nailed down their Mandalorian designs. And then next up here we have the Imperial Super Commandos, and I have to say their helmets look a bit off. It might just be me, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the mouth area looks a bit too wide, and also I think the black line going from the mouth to the eyes is a bit too thick, and it just makes the front helmet print look a bit cartoonish and sloppy kind of, which is honestly kind of disappointing because in The Mandalorian these guys' helmets looked so cool and LEGO just did not capture that in the best way here. However, on the bright side, the rest of the figure, especially the torso and arm printing, looks incredible, and they also have these really cool jetpacks with a printed piece, and yes, they also have back printing underneath the jetpacks. And if you're wondering, they too just both have plain black heads, but that aside, I think their helmets are just just a bit off and not as good as they could have been, which I find to be honestly kind of disappointing. Anyways, taking a look at the build, this is actually a rare case where a battle pack build is not a vehicle, which I do appreciate, but at the same time, there's just not much going on here, especially on this left side where there's just a big exposed plate. I think it could have used a few more pieces right there to just cover that up a little bit. And there's also not much going on in the back. There's just a little bit more rock work and a little clip to hold a rifle. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal because after all, it is a battle pack. It's more about the figures than it is the build. In terms of play features, there are these two little side builds. One's a little crate that you can open up when there's a little grenade inside. And then you have this simple little stud shooter gun right here that I guess you can take one of your Mandalorians and sit behind it. And you can push the lever down to fire it and get it lost across the room per usual. But perhaps the main and definitely the best play feature on this set is this little lever right here with a transparent piece. And basically what you can do is take one of your super commandos and attach him to the back of it right here. And then you can use the lever to move him around and actually make it look like he's flying with his jetpack. And I think this is really awesome. You can set up a pretty cool little battle with the super commandos and the Mandalorians. And it's actually a battle pack that has some sort of display value to it, which is really rare, but I also really like. Now, like I mentioned earlier, in the back of the instructions, it did show that it can pair with the Mandalorian bunker set. They can attach to each other on both sides. The first side looks like this. It's kind of just all in one line. And then the second side actually makes it form sort of a corner, which I think looks a lot better personally. And then you can set up all your figures from both sets. And I'm not gonna lie, this looks really, really awesome. Combined, these sets are $60, and I know that I dogged on the bunker a lot for being $40, which I think is overpriced. But when you put them together, this actually does feel like it's worth $60, and I think it just, again, looks really awesome. Although I am still stating on business, I think it's absolutely pathetic that the bunker did not include the third Praetorian Guard, but the fact that these sets just look so cool together kind of makes up for that. And honestly, if you want to set up a really cool battle like this, I would recommend both of these sets so you can do this. It makes for a great display piece. But anyways, that aside, back to just the battle pack itself, I think it's pretty solid. Again, my only and main complaint is just with the Super Commando helmets. They just don't look very good to me, or I guess they're just kind of underwhelming, or my expectations were too high for them. I just don't think they look as good as they could, and they're not very accurate. Again, the Mandalorians look great, per usual. The Lego Mandalorians always look good, but it's just those Super Commandos that I'm having a problem with, so I'm going to give it a 9.2 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75386 Paz Vizsla and Moff Gideon battle. This set will be releasing on June 1st with 289 pieces and a pretty hefty price tag of $40 US. And as you guys know, this set includes the long-awaited Moff Gideon with his Mandalorian helmet and an updated version of Paz Vizsla, and two new Praetorian Guards, although there's a pretty big problem with those that I will get to in a minute. Anyways, opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're going to find only 3 numbered bags, as well as your instruction manual and a pretty small sticker sheet with only 5 stickers. Taking a look at the instructions, on the front you're just going to have a reprint of the box art, and then right inside you're going to have some art for the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, then jump straight into your building process. And then in the back you're going to see how this set can actually pair and connect with the new Mandalorian and Super Commando battle pack that's coming out on June 1st as well. And then you're going to see some advertising for the rest of the June sets. Taking a look at the figures, first up here we had the 2 Praetorian Guards, and I have to say LEGO did a very good job on them. They look really nice. At first glance, I thought their helmets were a bit too long, but then I looked at the source material from The Mandalorian Season 3, and they actually look pretty accurate. I just think these guys look really cool, and LEGO did a good job. However, there's a big problem with them that I really don't like, and that's that there's only 2, when very clearly in the scene that this set is based off of, there are 3 of them, and the third LEGO one does exist. However, it's coming in the advent calendar on September 1st, which is going to retail for $45. So basically, if you want the third Praetorian Guard to fully complete the scene, you're gonna have to wait until September 1st and pay $45 for it, which I think is just absolutely pathetic that LEGO did not just include him in this set, especially considering the fact that it's already $40, which is pretty pricey. But other than that, like I said, the actual 2 Praetorian Guards included do look pretty nice. And then next up here we have the updated Paz Vizsla, and he looks absolutely incredible. He's got all the necessary detailing and printing. There's even back printing underneath his jetpack and shoulder piece, and printing at the top of his torso underneath his shoulder piece as well. And speaking of his shoulder piece, on the left side there is a printed Mandalorian symbol, which looks really awesome, and he also includes his M55 repeating blaster, and it just looks so awesome. I could go on and on about this figure. LEGO just did a very good job with him. And then the cool figures continue with the long-awaited Moff Gideon with his Mandalorian helmet, and just like Paz Vizsla, LEGO just did a very good job on this figure. There's just incredible detailing on the front and the back, and there's even printing underneath his jetpack as well, and he also even comes with a hairpiece that you can put on when you take his helmet off, as well as a double-sided face, with the second face kind of looking like he's constipated. Anyways, the 4 figures that we got in this set are absolutely incredible. LEGO just did a very good job on them. However, I just really cannot get past the fact that it's missing the 3rd Praetorian Guard for no apparent reason other than LEGO just wants more money with the advent calendar. Now taking a look at the actual build itself, I have to say it looks really good, but it does not feel like it's worth $40 at all. Anyways, diving in, on the left side you're going to have a nice tan rock piece as well as a little printed control panel, and then at the top you're going to have these 2 very long stickers that were kind of frustrating to put on, but in the end result they do add some pretty nice detailing up here. And then on the right side you're going to have some more rock work and some minor detailing with a transparent piece. And you might have noticed there is this little box right here that you can take off and open up to find some grenades inside. On the inside, right in front of the door, there are some stickers on these slope pieces, and honestly I don't think they're very necessary, and the actual gray of the sticker is off color from the gray of the brick like usual. However, I do appreciate that they add some type of detail down here, and the discoloration isn't very noticeable since they're pretty hidden. And now speaking of the door itself, I think the design of it is really good and pretty accurate, and it's got this little knob on the top that you can actually grab and use to lift up the door. And then on the back here there is this little Technic lever that you can push down, and it actually drops the door down like seen in the show. And if you're wondering how it works, when you lift the door up it just rests on this little ball joint, and then when you push the piece down the ball joint lifts up and it makes the door drop down. And this feature is pretty simple, but I think it's pretty dang cool and a really fun way to recreate the scene that this set is based off of. On the back left side here you're going to have this little hidden area that actually has a stickered control panel of Moff Gideon's Imperial light cruiser, and if you want I guess you can grab Moff Gideon and place him back here. On the top, besides the main gun, there's not much going on up here, and quite frankly I wish they could have added a few more tiles, but that's just me. I don't think it's a big deal. However, speaking of the gun, it can turn all the way around 360 degrees, and if you want you can grab Moff Gideon or one of the Praetorian guards and place them up here behind it. And I have to say Moff Gideon up here does look pretty dang cool, and also as you might have noticed there are 2 stud shooters up here that you can fire as you please. The whole gun itself can actually easily detach from the main build and reveal this little storage area to hold all of these studs for the stud shooter, and if you want it's a good place to hold Moff Gideon's hairpiece as well. Now for the most part I think all of the figures and the build and the scene you can partially recreate with this set are all pretty dang good. Sitting Paz Vizsla in front of the door with his massive blaster just looks absolutely awesome, and again the build, even though it's not worth $40 at all, is pretty good. It honestly surprised me. It's actually a pretty decent display piece, and again the figures are just incredible. However, I just cannot get over the fact they left out a Praetorian Guard and are charging $40 for this set. I think at most what we're getting here should be no more than $35, preferably $30, but the fact that they're leaving out the 3rd guard and charging $40 for this for no reason than the fact that they just want more money is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't like that at all. So would I recommend this set to you for $40? No, not really, unless you just really want Paz Vizsla and Moff Gideon. And I know that accounts for basically everybody. I think almost everyone is very interested in these 2 figures, but if you're not interested in these 2 figures, I honestly would not buy this set unless you can find it for at least $35 or less. LEGO really made a good set here, but they just completely dropped the ball when they left out the 3rd Praetorian Guard and made the retail price $40. So because of that, I'm taking off 2 points and feeling an 8 out of 10 because the rest of the set is very good. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at the LEGO Star Wars June set that no one really cares about, being 75390 Luke Skywalker X-Wing Mech. This set just released on June 1st with 195 pieces and a retail price of $16 US. There's not much to look at on the box, although I do have to say I really like the back. I think it's cool that they put it on Dagobah. It's kind of random, but I just think it looks cool. Anyways, actually opening up and digging into the box, on the inside you're going to find 4 numbered bags, as well as your instruction manual. Now taking a look at the only minifigure in this set, being Luke Skywalker, which is is surprisingly not the same Luke Skywalker that's in the $240 UCS X-Wing, despite what some of the rumors said, which I again find to be kind of surprising, but I also find to be pretty annoying, especially considering, you know, this. Anyways, that aside, the Luke Skywalker minifigure does look pretty good. It's up to standards with today's quality of LEGO Star Wars minifigures. He's got nice back printing, as well as a double-sided face and a little blaster and his lightsaber, of course. Anyways, taking a look at the actual mech itself, I think it looks pretty cool. It also kind of looks like Optimus Prime's Jetwing, which I can't really get out of my head, but that aside, it's still a pretty cool build. As you'd expect, you can easily sit Luke Skywalker on the inside and then fold up the little chest piece that also has a printed Rebellion logo on it. And then on the hip here, there's going to be a little place to hold his blaster, and on the very back, there is going to be another place to hold his lightsaber. Now, speaking of the back, I think this area looks pretty good for the most part. I like how there's sort of some transparent studs to make it look like there's some engines back here, and the wings look pretty cool too. However, one problem I have with the wings is that they're actually on ball joints instead of hinges, and the problem with this is that they're pretty tedious to line up, and they're also pretty easy to just knock and kind of misalign, which after a while I just found kind of frustrating because I was always having to realign them after I handled the build, and I just think they would have worked a lot better on hinges instead of ball joints. Anyways, though, on the bright side, the legs look surprisingly really detailed. I was honestly kind of shocked when I built them, and as you'd expect, there is a ball joint at the hip and on the feet, so you can move them around and pose them however you want. The arms look pretty solid too. On the right one, you're going to have his lightsaber, which you can see here, and it's also got 3 fingers that you can move around and kind of wrap around the lightsaber and make it look like the mech is actually holding it. And you can kind of do the same thing on his left hand where he's holding his giant blaster. And speaking of the blaster, I mean, it looks decent. I really didn't have any type of high expectations for this, so I'm not complaining that much, although I do think it could be a bit longer. Anyways, overall, this mech is pretty cool, just like the rest of the mechs. It's a unique little display piece that you can sit on like your desk or your nightstand or something, although again, I find it very frustrating how his wings are on ball joints instead of hinges. I just don't like how it's so tedious to handle and how you always have to realign them. So because of that, I'm just going to take 1 point off and give it a 9 out of 10 because I really like how the rest of it looks. And honestly, would I recommend this to you for $16? And well, if you like mechs, I would say yes. And if you don't have any of the mechs yet and want to get into them, I would recommend this one because out of the ones they've made, I think it's the best. I mean, I think they all look great. I just feel like this Luke Skywalker X-Wing one is a bit cooler than the rest. So let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, as always, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most talked about sets this year, being 75391 Captain Rex Y-Wing Microfighter. This set just released on June 1st with 99 pieces and a retail price of $13 US. And of course, it's one of the most talked about sets this year because of that Captain Rex minifigure, which has caused a lot of controversy that we will dive into. Now, mind you, this set did release on June 1st, but up until August 1st, it is only available directly through LEGO, so on LEGO.com or through official LEGO stores. It's not going to be until August when you're going to see it in your Walmarts and Targets. Anyways, digging into the box, on the inside you're going to find 2 numbered bags, an accessory bag, and a little cardboard box that is holding Captain Rex's comma. And then your instruction manual, of course, but all that out of the way, what we want to see in this set is the Captain Rex minifigure. Now, as many of you know, this is the exact same Captain Rex minifigure that is included in the $650 UCS Venator. And because it's the exact same Captain Rex, it has the exact same problems. The main problem, to me at least, is just how big his shoulder pauldron is. I think it doesn't look very good. I mean, honestly, I haven't looked at the one that I got in the Venator in quite a while, and then when I built this one, I was reminded how big his pauldron is, and I was like, dang, this really doesn't look that good. But anyways, aside from the pauldron, I think the rest of the figure is fine. I don't mind his ammo pouch, and I also don't even really mind his printed waist cape. Obviously, a physical one would be leagues better, but I honestly don't really mind the printed one in this case. I can't really pinpoint why. And then, of course, his arm printing looks phenomenal. Now, that was just a pretty quick rundown of the details of this figure and my initial thoughts. If you want to see a more in-depth dive into the actual printing and details of this figure, you should probably just go ahead and watch my Venator review. But what I need to do right now is discuss the massive elephant in the room regarding this figure, and that's that it's the exact same one that's in the $650 UCS Venator that LEGO claimed was going to be exclusive to that set. And I know I usually make a lot of people pretty mad with my opinion on this, so if you don't want to watch it, just skip past this part of the video, I guess. But what I'm going to do is go over 3 mistakes that I think LEGO has made with Phase 2 Captain Captain Rex in general, even since 2013. Mistake number 1, putting the first Phase 2 Captain Rex in 10 years in a $650 set. This Captain Rex right here from the BARC Speeder in 2013 should have appeared in more sets than just that one. 2014 was a year that we saw a bunch of incredible super niche clone troopers, which would have worked very well for LEGO to just throw that figure into another set the next year in 2014, but they didn't. And then from 2014 to 2019, I think this figure should have appeared in a few more sets, at least 3. I'm not going to go in depth of what I think those sets should have been. I'm just saying I think this figure should have been made multiple times throughout the decade. And then I definitely think they should have made him in 2020 when Season 7 of the Clone Wars came out. That was the perfect opportunity to either just use this original one or just make a new Phase 2 Captain Rex, but they didn't for literally no apparent reason. And then the years go by and we still haven't gotten any Rex in general, despite how popular his character is, until 2023 when he appeared in a $650 set. Mistake number 2, claiming he was exclusive. They already messed up by putting the first Captain Rex in 10 years in a $650 set, and then they just doubled down and made it worse by claiming that this figure was going to be exclusive, which was most likely just to drive sales for the Venator. I actually think M&R Productions put it very well in his review. I think they did it just to drive sales, and yes, I too have sympathy for everyone that got fooled into thinking this figure was going to be exclusive to that set, investor or not. Now, I don't think anyone in their right mind bought this set just for Captain Rex. That's ridiculous, especially considering how good the build is, but I do think a lot of people got fooled into thinking they were going to get an extra exclusive perk with this set, and again, I have sympathy for them. And then the third and final mistake from LEGO, in my opinion, is ignoring how popular of a character Rex is and not giving him the Boba Fett treatment. And I say the Boba Fett treatment because, as you guys know, we have gotten countless Boba Fetts in the past 10 years. Some are dirt cheap and others are super rare. Everybody is happy and Boba Fetts are easily accessible. And I think the exact same thing should have been done with Captain Rex just because he's such a popular character. I think there should be multiple versions, some that are exclusive to expensive sets and some that are just widely available in smaller sets like this Microfighter. And then, in my opinion, what would have been the best solution for the situation they put themselves in back in October would be to simply just remove the band-aid that is on Rex's head, so the one in the Venator would have technically stayed exclusive. This would have been the best solution to make everyone happy because that would have held its value, and then of course everyone that didn't want to buy the Venator would have been able to easily get Rex with this Microfighter. But obviously they did not do that, and that's what unfortunately led to this continuous conversation that we are still having today. And I honestly plan on never talking about this again after this video. I'm just tired of discussing it. Anyways, don't forget there's also a Y-Wing in this set too, which I quite frankly think looks kind of ugly. I feel like the proportions are just a bit off. I think the engine should maybe be 1 brick longer, but I mean, it is a Microfighter after all. I'm not expecting them to be perfect. I just don't think this one looks that great. However, when you sit Captain Rex in there right behind his little printed control panel, I do think it actually looks pretty cool, especially when you have his 2 guns pointing out like that. I think it looks pretty epic, not gonna lie, especially if you have some sort of display stand like this. I just think it looks cool. Now the final question is, would I recommend this set to you for $13? And of course I would. If you don't want to buy the Venator and really want a Captain Rex, go out and get this set. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. I think it's great that LEGO has made it available for everybody, although I am still standing on business and I think it should have been different from the one in the Venator, just so the one in the Venator could have stayed exclusive. I'm feeling a pretty solid 9 out of 10 for this set. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now. So I had to order this set from Amazon because I could not find it in any of the stores that were near me, and as you can tell, the box came absolutely mangled. It was awful. And even worse, the box itself was actually open, and it's not like someone actually opened it themselves, it just had not been sealed properly. As you can see, the tape is not cut, it's just not holding the top flap down, so therefore the box is just open. Although I checked inside and somehow it was not missing a single bag or the instructions or anything, and I thought about returning it, but nothing was missing, so I just decided to go ahead and take what I have because there wasn't really a point to wait for a new one. But still, to LEGO for not sealing this properly and to Amazon for not handling it properly, I don't think this is acceptable. But now with all of that out of the way, as you can guys see, today we're going to be taking a look at 75374, the Onyx Cinder. This set just released on August 1st with 1,325 pieces and a retail price of $140. And if you didn't know, this ship is from the upcoming Star Wars show called Skeleton Crew, set to come come out in December, hence why you probably don't recognize this ship or any of the characters included. Anyways though, on the back of the box you're going to get another render of the set along with pictures of all of its play features, and then actually opening up my already opened box, on the inside you're going to find 13 separately numbered bags, as well as your instruction manual and your sticker sheet in this cardboard case, with the sticker sheet having 17 stickers and the instruction manual being pretty hefty with 489 steps. The first minifigure we have up here is Neil, the minifigure that everyone has been talking about with this set. A lot of people have been hating on this figure, but I think it looks pretty cool and has a really unique head mold. If you didn't know, this is supposed to be like a kid version or the same species as Max Rebo from episode 6, and I just think it's pretty unique. It seems like it's going to be a unique character in the show, and that just makes for a really cool and unique figure. I do have to say though that the hair on the top of his head does look a bit strange. Anyways, then next up here we have Fern. This is just another one of the kids from the show, and there's not a whole lot going on here. This is a pretty nicely detailed figure that looks good for the most part, and she also has a double-sided face, and like Neil, she has a little flashlight. Next up here we have Wim, and this figure looks awesome because of his hairpiece. I just think it's really cool and unique, and I also like his torso print quite a bit, and as you can tell, he's got a pretty cool looking double-sided face that shows a sort of scared or kind of shocked look, and he also has a flashlight and a walkie-talkie. Then last for the kids, we have KB, and this figure is pretty cool looking. As you can tell, she's sort of got like a Lobot situation going on with her head print, but I think it looks pretty cool. It's got a unique hairpiece and some nice back printing, and she also has a double-sided face with the second face not having the mask over her eyes. And speaking of the mask, there is a little bit of printing that gets covered up by the hairpiece on each side as it kind of just extends all the way around her head. And then lastly, we have the one adult being Jod, who is like the leader of the kids in the show, and I think he's awesome. My favorite part is definitely that scarf piece around his neck. I think it adds some unique detail, and he too has a double-sided face as well as a pretty old school looking pistol. And I think for the most part this minifigure lineup is about as good as it needs to be. It has the 4 main kids as well as the adult main character. I mean, I really don't know what else it could have added because I obviously haven't seen the show yet, but the trailer actually just dropped yesterday at the time that I'm recording this, and in the trailer there's 4 kids as well as Jod, so I mean that makes sense for this ship. With Neil probably being my favorite character, I just think that head mold is really unique, and Jod is probably at a close second, and actually Wim's pretty cool too because of that hairpiece. I mean, all of these figures are pretty good, but I think Neil's the best in my opinion. The ship itself is pretty interesting to say the least. It's definitely really unique compared to most of the other designs of Star Wars ships and especially LEGO Star Wars sets. As you can see here, there's quite a bit going on all throughout the ship on the top and on the sides, and we're gonna dive into all of that. On the front here, on the left, there's this little gun that can move side to side, as well as this thing in the middle that can move up and down. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, but it's there and it adds some detail, I guess. And then on the right, instead of another gun, there's gonna be a little light for some reason, which makes it look kind of disproportional, but it is what it is. And also, as you can see here on the bottom of this front part, it slopes down like this and looks nicely detailed. I appreciate they went out of their way to make this area look good when it could have just very easily been anti-studs. Anyways though, on the top of the front, you're gonna have this pretty cool shaped tiled panel piece, and then right behind that on the actual top, you're gonna see lots of detail as well as these white stripes that go across, and then some stickers which add some detail. However, like every sticker nowadays, they still have the problem where the actual color of the sticker is not the same color as the actual brick, and it just does not look good. I wish LEGO would just find a solution to this problem already, because sometimes it really can throw off the look of sets. Anyways though, you also might have noticed that on the top here there is this little stud turret that can spin all the way around in 360 degrees, and you can fire it as you please. And then towards the back half of the top of the ship, there's just more detail and a lot more going on. These sort of transparent dome turrets right here can spin all the way around, and I think they look really cool. And then there's also another stud shooter on the back left side that can spin around, as well as this radar dish that can spin around and sort of point up and down. Towards the back here on the left side is where you're also going to find the cockpit of the ship with even more stud shooters that you can fire as you want, as well as this little gun on the bottom that can spin around. It is kind of hard to maneuver as you can see here because there's not much room, but I do think it looks really cool. The top panel on the cockpit can very easily lift open to reveal a pretty simple interior with 2 stickered control panels, and as you'd expect, you can take Jod and Sim in here because I assume this is his ship and he's the one that's supposed to be flying it, and there's also room for his blaster as well. On the back of the top here, there's lots of really nice greebling and sticker detailing and just shaping in general. They did a really great job with it. I mean, obviously the sticker isn't the color it's supposed to be, but for the most part it looks good back here. And this panel can actually like sort of lift open. I'm not sure if it's like meant to be an actual play function, but if you want to, it can move up and down. And then from there you're gonna see some nice back detailing, as well as this door or ramp that can open on the back that, as you can see here, is kind of tricky and annoying to open, but once you do open it, you're going to find two crates, with the smaller crate having like what looks to be a little pastry on the inside or a cake or something, and then the larger crate having what appears to be a carrot or a Star Wars carrot on the inside. The sides of the ship look really detailed as well. You can get a good look at the landing gear design, which I think is really cool, how it kind of goes from like the bottom to the top of the ship, and also the white stripes that are on the top kind of wrap around the side of the ship as well. And if you're wondering, yes, the ship does have an interior. On the right side here, you can fold the top panel up and then fold the bottom panel down to access a pretty cool interior with a little table in the middle and then a table off to the side with like a coffee pot and a drink on it, and 4 seats for the 4 kids. And as you'd expect, there's room for all 4 of them in here, as well as 2 clips at the top to hold some of their flashlights. Although I do have to say, this interior space is very crammed and hard to access. As you can see here, it's kind of tricky to get the figures in, especially the ones in the back. I mean, obviously it is possible, as you can see here. I just wish there was easier access to the interior. And then also, if you're wondering, this is what the bottom of the ship looks like. Just some detailing in the front, as I pointed out earlier, and then some anti-studs and landing gear in the middle. Now, the engines are the last thing I wanted to talk about because that's really the main feature with this set. As you can see here, all 6 of the engines have these stickers on the inside that sort of represent like the intakes of them, and then on the bottoms you're going to find the actual thrust sort of facing downwards, as well as these pretty cool looking wings that the back ones are attached to. But the main play feature is that you might have noticed earlier, there is this little switch right here on the top of the ship, and when you move it back and forth, as you can see, it sort of rotates the engines from facing downwards to facing forwards, and it's so simple, but it's so satisfying and fun to play with. And also, I just think ships that have engines like this in sci-fi in general are really cool, and it obviously works well as a Star Wars ship, and especially works well as a Lego set. Again, it's a really fun play feature that's very simple but very satisfying to play with, and it definitely makes this set. And then on top of that, the set itself is very easy to handle and pretty sturdy, and does have some swooshability. Now, trying to decide on a rating and also if I should recommend this set to you guys or not is not very easy to do, because obviously I haven't seen the show yet, though I do have to say it does feel like it's actually fairly priced. I mean, maybe like 130 would have been a bit better than 140, but compared to a lot of other sets in this August wave, it actually feels like it's more or less worth its price point. Although again, I haven't seen the show yet, it hasn't come out yet, so I really can't say if this is going to end up being an iconic ship or not. But I do have to say, if you want a really unique looking ship that will definitely add some character and spice up your collection, I think this might be a good set for you. Again, until this show comes out, I really just can't pinpoint on that, although I can give it a rating, and I think it's really cool. The only downside is really the stickers, and other than that, I really can't think of anything else that's wrong with this set. Maybe it could include extra figures, because 5 for $140 is kind of low, but at the same time, it includes all the main characters of the show, so it just makes sense to me. So I'm gonna be generous and actually give this set a 9 out of 10. The sticker discoloration and the price maybe being $10 more than it should be are really my only problems with it. Everything else is really cool, and I think this is a very unique set. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see the link on screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75385 Ahsoka Tano's Duel on Peridea. This set will be releasing on August 1st with 382 pieces and a retail price of $55 US, which is extremely overpriced, but on the bright side, it is the very first set to include Thrawn since 2017, although unfortunately that might really be the only thing this set has to offer. Anyways, on the back of the box you're going to find another render of the build and the 4 pillars, as well as a few pictures at the top right showcasing the play features, and then opening up the box and digging in. On the inside, you're just going to find 3 numbered bags, as well as your instruction manual and a pretty ridiculous looking sticker sheet. The first figure we have up here is the Night Trooper, and as you can tell, it's really just your standard Family Guy Stormtrooper with a few extra prints on the front and the back that do actually add some nice detail. And then underneath that, he's actually got a really cool looking zombie face print that even has some printing on the back of the head as well. And despite this having the oversized Stormtrooper helmet that LEGO needs to get rid of, the actual prints and detailing on this figure look pretty cool. Here we have Morgan Elsbeth in her sort of witch or night sister form, and I have to say, for the most part, I like this figure. There's no leg printing, but there doesn't really need to be leg printing because in the show there's not much detail on her legs. And on top of that, she includes a double-sided face, with the second one being this sort of angry, aggressive face. And then the best part is probably the Blade of Talzin, which is this really cool green transparent sword. I think it's a really unique weapon piece, and they actually got the color down pretty much perfectly. And then next up here we have Ezra Bridger, and this is actually the first Ezra that we've gotten in 8 years. The last last one came out in 75158 Rebel Combat Frigate in 2016, and I have to say, for the most part, he looks pretty good. Those really large blue eyes are throwing me off a lot. I mean, I know he had bright blue eyes in the show, and LEGO pretty much recreated that as best as they could here, but at the same time, the way he looked in the show was pretty awkward to me and kind of threw me off. So because of that, despite LEGO doing as best they could, I think his LEGO figure just looks kind of awkward and strange too. On the bright side though, he's got a pretty cool hairpiece as well as a double-sided face print, with the second face being a pretty aggressive angry face. Then second to last here we have Ahsoka Tano, and I have to say, for the most part, this figure looks really good. She's got great printing all around, and I really like her light gray outfit. Although the problem is with her arm printing. As you can see here, the white on her arm printing has a bit of an orange or pinkish tint to it, and that's because the orange color of her arm is bleeding through the white print. And this has been a problem on a lot of LEGO Star Wars figures recently, where the color of the plastic bleeds through the actual prints, and it ruined Commander Fox last year, and here it's making Ahsoka's arm print not look as good as it should. So I just really hope that someday soon LEGO will figure out a solution to this problem. Although on a lighter note, Ahsoka does have a double-sided face print, and she does include both of her white lightsabers. And then last but certainly not least, we have what's probably the best figure in this set, being Grand Admiral Thrawn, of course. And he really does look incredible. This is pretty much the perfect Thrawn figure. He's got dual molded legs as well as a very sleek looking torso print and a double-sided face print that also looks really good as well. Again, I think this is the best figure in this set. And overall, I have to say that this minifigure lineup is pretty solid. Yes, some of the figures have issues like Ahsoka's arm printing or the Family Guy Stormtrooper helmet, but overall this is a pretty solid lineup, and I think it's going to be the main draw for a lot of people that are buying this set. But now actually taking a look at the set itself, I have to say it actually looks better than I was expecting. I think the 4 columns actually look really cool, and the stickers definitely add some nice detail. However, despite them adding nice detail on the columns, I really wish they were printed for the price you're paying for this set. And on top of that, there's even more stickers on the actual base of the build, and these add detail too. However, I just do not think these should be stickers. This is definitely just overkill. Everything you see here is stickers on the columns, on the base. It's just too many for the price you're paying. And what's even worse is that you're supposed to put the figures all over this build, and if you're actually constantly using it, the stickers are going to wear very easily, especially the ones on the actual base. And not to mention, as I was building it, after a while it just got super tedious putting all of these on and was kind of annoying. So again, for $55, how overpriced this set is, I don't think it would have been much of a hassle to print these pieces. On a lighter note though, the back of the columns look good. There's some gold colored rods back here to add some detail, and it's not just the back of the plates. And also the base, the back is tiled off a bit, and there's some more gold pieces to add some detail. And also, speaking of the base itself, it's actually pretty cool how they were able to get this shape with it. Besides having to apply all of these stickers, it was actually a pretty decently fun build, and there were some pretty cool techniques used. Now you might have noticed that on the side here there are these gears that you can spin, and when you spin these, the 2 smaller circles rotate, and then that big circle in the middle can also rotate as well. You just have to do it manually. And then obviously you can take all of your figures and place them all over the base of the build, putting the characters with lightsabers on these spinny parts. And then this is really the main play feature of this set. You can spin these gears on the side and it spins the circles, and you can kind of pretend like they're fighting, which actually works decently well and is going to be a pretty fun play feature for kids. For adults though, I have to say, when the figures are on the build like this, it is also a very nice looking display piece. It's super clean and minimalistic, and it's almost even like a diorama in a sense. I just think it looks really good. Although what I don't like is that underneath the pieces that spin, if you lift it up, there's just a blue plate underneath, and if you're looking down at it, these blue pieces bleed through very noticeably, and like this shouldn't even be happening. I don't understand why LEGO couldn't have just made those black pieces or gray pieces. I mean, I know blue is cheaper and they usually try to hide color pieces within the builds of Star Wars sets, but in this case they're not very well hidden and they bleed through pretty noticeably. And then the last play feature is that on the back here you might have noticed there is this little like seesaw looking or catapult looking piece, and you're supposed to sit Ezra on it and push it down, and it's supposed to launch him off and sort of be able to recreate the jump he makes in the actual Ahsoka show. It's a cool idea and a cool feature, but as you can see here, it doesn't really work very well. But I mean, it's the thought that counts, I guess. Now, would I recommend this set to you for $55? And no, man, of course not. The figures, for the most part, are really good, especially Thrawn. I think that's going to be a driving factor for a lot of people. Although for $55, unless you just really want them, I would just wait until it's on sale. This set realistically should not be any more than $40. And on top of it being overpriced, there's an absurd amount of stickers that are going to wear off very easily. And there's also problems with some of the figures like Ahsoka and then the Family Guy Stormtrooper helmet, which LEGO always uses, but I'm always going to point it out because it looks awful. But really the main 2 issues to me are just the stickers and the price. This set definitely did did have potential, and for the most part it looks good on display, although those two factors are holding it back quite a bit, to me at least. So because of that, I'm feeling a 7.7 out of 10. Again, the stickers and the price are just the main issue. If this set was $40 and had all printed pieces, I mean, I'd probably give it up to a 9 out of 10. But like I said, it had potential and just seemingly got kind of ruined. Anyways guys, let me know what you think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see me on the screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most hyped up LEGO Star Wars sets of 2024, being 75388 Jedi Bob Starfighter. This set will be releasing on August 1st with 305 pieces and a retail price of $40 US. Now Jedi Bob, one of the most legendary minifigures of all time. If you don't know who he is, all the way back in 2002, a little set came out being 7163 Republic Gunship, and that set was based off of the scene in episode 2 where the Jedis are fighting in the Geonosian Temple and all the gunships come to the rescue. And in that scene, there are just so many different unnamed Jedis on screen everywhere that LEGO just decided to throw in an unnamed Jedi into this set. And his official title is actually just Jedi Knight in the set, but then fast forward 7 years to the 2009 LEGO Star Wars Visual Dictionary. Within that book, he was just randomly given the name Jedi Bob. And ever since then, his name has just been called Jedi Bob, and he has been a staple and sort of a meme within the LEGO Star Wars community. And then fast forward 15 more years, today in 2024, we are getting a show called Rebuild the Galaxy, which is basically going to be a show where a kid finds a Jedi holocron and it just alters reality in Star Wars. And the creators of this show are actually using this as an excuse, or just a reason, I guess, to bring back Jedi Bob. And then 22 years later, after the gunship released, we finally have him again in his own official set. And that pretty much explains why this set you're seeing here even exists. Now on the back of the box, you're going to find another render of the Starfighter, as well as all of the different play features. And then actually opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're going to find 4 separately numbered bags, as well as this loose white plate right here, and then your instruction manual and a sticker sheet. The first figure we have up here is called an Akbar Trooper. It's a bit of a weird looking figure. It's literally just a Mon Calamari head on top of a Phase 1 clone trooper body. I mean, there's literally nothing else to say. That's exactly what it is. It's pretty weird, but in the trailer of the show we see a lot of weird stuff happening, so I guess it makes sense. And then next up here we have Servo, or SRVO, and he just appears to be a modified or custom Gonk droid. Not a whole lot going on here, but I like his blue and gray color scheme, and it's always nice to get unique droids. And then last, and certainly not least, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Jedi Bob, and he is almost exactly the same as the original one that came out in 2002, although as you can see here, this is not his original face print. This is actually a new face print, and he has a double-sided head, with the second face being his original classic one. And also his torso on the new one is light gray compared to the dark gray of the old one. Unfortunately, I don't own the old one, but there is this picture that Brickset put out on Instagram that compares the two, and as you can see, the old one is a bit of a darker gray compared to the newer one, which is light bluish gray, and that combined with this double-sided face print technically makes this one an exclusive and separate figure. Now this minifigure lineup is very simple, but honestly it also is pretty intriguing, not only because of obviously Jedi Bob, but I think the Akbar Trooper is pretty cool as well, and it's really nice to see a unique Gonk droid. I don't know if we've ever gotten a sort of custom or modified Gonk droid before, although I do think for $40 it does feel like 3 figures isn't quite enough, although I can't really critique it because I haven't seen the show yet, so I don't know what else they could have added. All I can really say is that an extra Akbar Trooper might have been nice. Anyways, moving on to the actual Starfighter itself, I have to say I really like how it looks for the most part. I think a solid red and white colorway was the best option, and I love the patterns on the ship with the red and white stripes, but actually digging into the nitty-gritty details on the front here, there is going to be a sticker, as well as another sticker right in the middle, and then a third sticker right in front of the cockpit. Now the stickered piece in the middle can actually pop off, and then on the inside you're going to find a little storage area with a carton of blue milk as well as a banana. And then moving on to the back here, you're going to have some gray mixed in with stickers on either side that I think for the most part looks pretty good. As you can tell, they are supposed to be like continuous stickers, so obviously there's a gap between them, but it's not super noticeable, and I think the gray goes pretty well with the red and the white. And then also the area built around his cockpit looks good with the fin on the back and then the red pieces wrapping around it. It's a pretty cool looking technique, and I think they did a good job. And then the cockpit can very easily open, where you're going to find a printed control panel with a pink brick showing underneath that. As some of you might know, the LEGO Star Wars design team often tries to hide pink bricks in Star Wars sets for fun, and they put a few pink bricks in this set, although as you can see here, one of them is kind of showing through the cockpit. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but here it is. But anyways, then you can sit Jedi Bob in the cockpit. His cape kind of prevents him from sitting down on the studs, so I kind of just sit him in here without attaching him in, and then you can just fold the hatchback down and it's ready to go. And then right down from the cockpit, you're going to have the massive laser cannons on either side of the ship, and this is actually where my only problem with this set comes from, and it's just that I think these cannons on the side just look a bit awkward. They're kind of just thrown on there and they sort of mess up the sleekness of the Starfighter, especially when you're looking at it straight down. It just looks kind of awkward, and I think if they were maybe shorter, or if there were some like fins on the back here like on the Anakin's custom Jedi Starfighter from 2015, it would have helped a lot, just something to complement the cannons on the back. But since there's nothing, it just looks kind of awkward, and that's really my main complaint with this Starfighter. But with that being said, you might have noticed that underneath the two cannons there are spring-loaded shooters on each side that you can fire as you please, and then on the very back here you're going to find 3 engines that are sort of in this staggered position. They're very simple, but I think they look pretty cool. Flipping the set over, on the bottom side you're going to find how the wings are connected and how they're able to hold that angle, and then you're also going to find 2 clips, one where you can put Jedi Bob's lightsaber, and then another clip to hold an extra spring-loaded shooter if you want to do that. And then right in front of the clips there's going to be this little piece of landing gear that folds down, and it just ever so slightly holds the big engines on the front up. As you can see here, it's doing just a little bit, and then also in the very back there are these few slope pieces that are acting as landing gear as well. Now speaking of the big engines on front, I think they look really cool. They're pretty tricky to get on camera, but they definitely add a lot of character, and I like how they're sort of inspired by the engines on Anakin's custom Jedi Starfighter from 2015. Now would I recommend this set to you for $40 US? And well, yes actually, and honestly even if I said no, that probably wouldn't stop anyone. I think everyone's gonna want to get their hands on this because the Starfighter looks pretty cool, and obviously because it's Jedi Bob. I mean, he's extremely legendary and everyone wants to get their hands on him. And despite it not feeling like it's quite worth $40 because it might be missing an extra Akbar trooper, I still think lots and lots of people are gonna get this set. And again, speaking on the price, the actual Starfighter itself does really feel like it's worth $40. I just think the minifigure lineup is the only thing that's lacking. But at the same time, I haven't seen the show yet, so I don't really know what else they could or should add, so I don't really want to count that against it too much. Although what I will count against it is those 2 large cannons on the side. Again, I just think they look a bit awkward, and I think there should be something to complement them. So because of that, I'm feeling a pretty generous 9.1 out of 10. So far, I do think this is the best Rebuild the Galaxy set, just right ahead of the Millennium Falcon, which I actually gave a 9 out of 10. I haven't gotten the X-Wing and TIE Fighter set yet, but honestly, based off the product images, I think that one's probably going to be the worst of the 3. So again, I think this one is the best, just ever so slightly ahead of the Falcon. And again, my main gripe with it is just the big cannons on the sides. Let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most bizarre LEGO Star Wars sets ever made, being 75389, the Dark Falcon. This set will be releasing on August 1st with 1,579 pieces and a retail price of $180, and possibly has one of the most legendary minifigure lineups of all time, including Evil C-3PO, Darth Jar Jar, Darth Rey, and of course the white Darth Vader. Now this set is based off of the upcoming LEGO original content series called Rebuild the Galaxy, which from what I understand is a show where this kid discovers this ancient Jedi holocron or something, and it pretty much alters reality and makes everything opposite and turn upside down, where bad guys turn good and good guys turn bad, etc. So with that being said, that kind of explains why this set even exists and where all of this is coming from. And speaking of that show and this set, I'm not the biggest fan of the multicolored box art. I just think the multicolored bricks kind of clash with the black on the box art, and it just doesn't look very appealing, but maybe that's just me. The back of the box looks better though, where you're gonna find a nice render of this ship on what looks to be a beach, along with all the figures and multiple pictures showing all the different play features in this set. And then opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're going to find 17 separately numbered bags, as well as this unnumbered bag that holds some larger pieces, and a cardboard box with your instruction manual and a pretty big sticker sheet. Now taking a look at the minifigures, first up here we have Evil C-3PO, or what LEGO calls Bounty Hunter C-3PO, and I think this figure looks really cool. It's essentially just your typical C-3PO, although he's got red eyes and his left arm is black, as you can tell. It's fairly simple and not super unique like some of the other figures in this set, although I still think it looks really cool, especially that black arm. And on top of that, we just very rarely see different versions of C-3PO in general. Then next up here we have Beach Luke Skywalker, which is a very wonky figure, but I honestly think he's pretty fun and he looks pretty cool and unique. He's got a pretty cool face print with those sunglasses, as well as this blue printed beach shirt that has all these pictures and patterns on it. And as you can tell, he has a double-sided face and comes with a little carton of blue milk. Then next up here we have Darth Dev, which from what I know is just the main antagonist in the upcoming show, and I have to say for the most part he looks pretty dang cool. He's got great printing all over and even a cape and then printing underneath that cape, and he's also got printing on his left arm, although I think his face print that's shown here doesn't really go with the rest of his prints, if that makes sense. Obviously I haven't seen this character in the show yet, although I do think it would be really cool if he came with some sort of helmet. It would go with his body print a lot better, although on the bright side he has a double-sided face, and his double-sided face is sort of this Sith angry face that I think looks a lot better than the other one. It just complements the rest of his printing a lot better. I still wish he came with some sort of helmet though, although I can't really count that against the set because he most likely does not have a helmet in the show. Then next up here we have Darth Rey. This is one of the few figures in this set that wasn't made up for this show because she actually briefly appeared in episode 8 or episode 9, I don't remember, but she appeared in one of the sequel movies, and I remember back in the day a lot of people were making custom figures of her, so it's nice to see that we've finally gotten an official Lego version. It's pretty simple, it gets the job done, and includes her double-bladed lightsaber. There's no leg printing, but I don't think she necessarily needs it. It looks about as good as it needs to. Then next up here we have one of the most hyped up figures in this set, being Darth Jar Jar. Yes, Darth Jar Jar finally exists in Lego form, and he's actually canon now, I guess, because of the show. Now I'm pretty sure this is the same Gungan or Jar Jar head that they have always been using, but as you can see it still looks good, and then underneath it on the back he's got back printing, and he comes with a double-bladed lightsaber, which is just even cooler. Now he doesn't have leg printing, which is a bit annoying. I mean, it wasn't annoying on Rey because Darth Rey's not as big of a character as Darth Jar Jar, so I wish they would have gave him leg printing and sort of just gone all out since they were making this figure, but it's not that big of a deal. That's again just a pretty small nitpick on my part. For the most part, I think he looks really cool, and I'm very happy that we finally have this figure and that this character even exists. Then last, but certainly not least, we have the most hyped up figure in this set, being the white Darth Vader, or what Lego calls Jedi Vader. And man, I have to say this figure is freaking awesome, and I mean he's really got it all. He's got a white cape, he's got printing underneath that white cape, he's got great looking arm printing on both of his arms, as well as a blue lightsaber and this sort of old man looking face. His face print does kind of throw me off a little bit because I mean obviously I haven't seen him in the show yet, so I don't know what he's gonna be like, but on this figure he just looks like an old man in a white Darth Vader outfit. And if you're wondering, no, he does not have a double-sided face print. Now as good as this figure is, there is one issue that I and a lot of other people have with it, and that's that the eyes on his helmet aren't blue, and I'm not sure if he has light blue eyes in this show or not. I assume he doesn't because of this figure, but I still think it really would have helped his helmet and sort of finish out the look of the figure, because honestly his helmet is a little bit bland and kind of looks like one of those prototype molds. So again, I just think the blue eyes would have helped a lot, but besides that, this is still a very awesome and very unique figure that lots and lots of people are going to be trying to get their hands on in the upcoming months. Oh, and if you're wondering, here's what he looks like next to the normal Darth Vader. It's pretty dang cool. Now this minifigure lineup is pretty legendary to say the least, and I think this lineup and this set as a whole are probably going to go down as a staple in Lego Star Wars, and there's absolutely no way that Lego would have done this on their own, so I really got to give flowers to the producers and the writers and creators of this upcoming show, because they really found a way or even an excuse for all these figures to exist in some form of Star Wars content, and even better as actual Lego figures. Again, Lego would have never done this on their own without this show, so I really got to give credit where credit is due. These guys are doing an incredible fan service. Although that's enough talk about the figures, let's take a look at the actual Dark Millennium Falcon itself, and I have to say this thing is freaking insane. It's not perfect though. There are a few issues I have with it, and we are going to dive into all of that. What I'm going to do is cover everything on the outside first, and then we're going to take a look at the interior. On the very front area here, there is some nice greebling on both sides, as well as a few minor details on top, and one thing you might notice is that inside those little holes there are some spring-loaded shooters, and with that being said, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just put your finger down in there and fire off both the spring-loaded shooters. It is kind of tricky sometimes they get caught on stuff and don't really fire very far, but eventually it's pretty easy to get the hang of. And then there's some minor detailing on the front half of the top here, all the way around to the radar dish, which has now been turned into like a miniature Death Star laser. It's on a ball joint, so you can move it around whichever way you want, and when I first saw this in the product images for this set, I thought that the green didn't really go well with the red and the black. However, now seeing it in person, I have to say it does look pretty cool. Then you're going to have a line of stickers and greebling all the way to the cockpit, and I have to say the dark red on the cockpit goes so well with the black of the rest of the ship. It just looks very clean, and I think dark red was just the perfect color to go with to complement the black, and not to mention all of the cockpit pieces are printed. It can pop off very easily to reveal a very basic interior with just a joystick and a printed tile for a control panel, and if you want you can put two of your characters in here. It is pretty cramped, but they do fit, and then from there you can just easily put the cockpit piece back on. Now unfortunately right next to the cockpit here here, there is this massive gap where you can very easily see into the inside of the ship, and it's so big that I honestly at first thought I built this wrong, but no, this is actually how the set is. I think this very easily could have been covered up, and it is a bit annoying. Anyways though, the gun on the very top here looks pretty cool with a sticker on the back of it, and you can turn it all the way around and point it up and down. And as you can see, when you lift it up, there's actually another sticker right under it. The hallways that go to the docking bay have a bit of detail on the top of them. There are these stickered circular tiles that I wish were printed. I usually don't mind stickers because they add detail, but I wish these ones were printed because it just got a bit repetitive putting these on. And then the actual docking bays themselves look pretty simple on both sides. There's not a lot to see. Then moving on to the back half of the ship, all of the exhaust vents are stickers too. And again, I really wish these weren't stickers. There's a lot of other stickers in this set that I don't mind, but all of these circular tiles on top were pretty repetitive to put on, and they're on the outside of the set, so if you put them on wrong, they're pretty noticeable. Just in my opinion, I think it would have been a lot better if these specific pieces were prints. It wouldn't have been as repetitive, and it would look a lot better back here. Continuing on to the very back though, it looks pretty nice. There's greebling all around, as well as these red engines. I think it looks great back here. I really have no complaints with the back. They did a good job. And then here's what the bottom looks like. There's not a whole lot going on, just the undersides of all the plates, and then 4 legs for landing gear, and then this other little turret right in the middle that is on a ball joint, allowing you to move it around however you want. Now to get into the inside and access the interior, every single panel on the top can actually very easily fold open, and then from there you have pretty easy access to the full interior. Starting on the front left side here, there are 2 brick built beds, as well as a clip on the wall to hold a spring glitter shooter or a lightsaber if you want to, and you can take any of your figures and very easily put them on the beds. And then right next to that, there is a pretty elaborate control panel with 3 stickers that is right in front of this brick built throne that can very easily slide out. And then right behind that, there is this red diamond piece. I'm not sure what this is. I haven't really done my research. I'm sure some of you guys might know, or it's just not revealed yet because the show's not out. But anyways, this throne is made for Darth Jar Jar. You can very easily sit him in it and then slide it back in. And then Darth Jar Jar himself has a freaking throne. Like, how much better could it be? They actually made a meme into an official Lego figure. They gave him a double-bladed lightsaber, and now he has a whole entire freaking throne inside the Millennium Falcon. Anyways, continuing on, next to that, at the front right side of the ship, there's not really anything here, just some extra room to sit in any of the figures if you want to. Although I do have to say, one thing I don't like is that this panel right here is very loosely held on, and it wiggles back and forth a lot and feels very flimsy and fragile, and I don't really like that. Anyways, then right behind that, there's this little tile on the ground that you can push down, and it actually pops down and is the boarding ramp. You can just barely see it under the ship from the outside, and obviously it's not big enough to fit a figure under, but it is still pretty cool and is a nice little feature. And then you can just very easily raise it up and attach it back on. On the very top, this whole circular panel that the gun is on can actually fold open, and then this little 2-person seat can slide out from the inside, and you're supposed to put 2 figures on there and slide it back in, then close the top, and I guess it's supposed to be like they're controlling the main gun. Then on the back right side, there is this little crate here that has a holocron, I guess, inside of it. Then next to that, you're going to find the hyperdrive, or what I think is supposed to be the hyperdrive, with a pretty cool looking sticker on top of it. And then in the back left side, you're going to have what is probably the best play feature on the interior of this build, which is a little gaming area with 2 couches with stickers on them, and a TV with a video game version of Dejarik. And there's even a stickered 1x2 tile on the ground that's supposed to represent like the actual video game cartridge itself. And then next to that is like a little brick built PS5. And then over on the corner, you're going to have a table with a controller on it. And I just think this is really fun and clever, especially the little miniature PS5. And you can take Beach Luke Skywalker and sit him on the couch with his controller like he's actually playing the video game version of Dejarik. And again, it's wonky, but I just think this is a really fun area of the interior. Anyways, then in the middle of the back, you're going to have these 4 red transparent pieces, and the front one can easily pop off. And what you're supposed to do is put white Darth Vader in here and then put the piece back on, and it's supposed to be like he's in jail, like they've captured him, which is kind of weird. I mean, I obviously haven't seen the show yet, but I assume that both Beach Luke Skywalker and white Darth Vader are good guys, except Beach Luke Skywalker's playing video games and white Darth Vader is in jail, or at least that's how they have it on the back of the box. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but hey, those are 2 play features. And then also, not to mention, on the back left side, you're going to have a little green surfboard on the wall that's supposed to belong to Luke Skywalker. And then that is all there is to see with the interior of the ship. You can just fold the panels back down and you are ready to go. Now, would I recommend this set to you for $180? And I have to say, I'm definitely not against it. If you're looking for one of the big $150 plus play sets, this one is definitely a good option. Now, there are some other sets in this price range, like the Ghost from last year for $160, which I honestly think is actually a better build than the Dark Millennium Falcon. However, if you want to go all out, if you want all of these awesome and legendary minifigures, if you want this super unique all black and red Millennium Falcon, then opinion, I think this is actually worth $180. Yes, a LEGO Star Wars set in 2024 actually feeling like it's worth its retail price. That doesn't happen very often. Although again, there are a few problems I have with it, like Darth Vader not having blue eyes, the big gap at the cockpit, and then all of these stickers on the back, which I wish were printed. So because of those few things, I'm going to take off 1 point, so I'm feeling a pretty strong 9 out of 10 for this set. I think it's already iconic, and I think in 10 years from now, this is going to be a very legendary set and a staple of LEGO Star Wars. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see the link on screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75393 TIE Fighter and X-Wing mashup. This set just released on August 1st with 1,063 pieces and a retail price of $110. Now this set is from the upcoming LEGO original content show called Rebuild the Galaxy, and it has a cool feature where you can actually switch out the wings on both the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter. And speaking of the sets from this show, so far I haven't really been the biggest fan of the box arts. I just think that colorful brick stripe that goes down the middle is kind of tacky looking, but maybe that's just me. Anyways though, on the back of the box you're going to see a render of what the set looks like with the wings switched around, and then actually opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're going to find 8 separately numbered bags, as well as 1 instruction manual for your TIE Fighter, 1 instruction manual for your X-Wing, and a sticker sheet with 11 separate stickers. The first figure we have up here is the one that everyone is talking about with this set, being L3GO, and if you couldn't put it together, that spells out LEGO, and this droid is basically the LEGO colors being red, white, and yellow, but everyone is talking about this droid and making fun of it because it looks like it's from McDonald's. I think LEGO's intentions were pretty cool to name it L3GO and have it be the LEGO colors, but myself and many other people really can't unsee that this droid looks like it came from a Happy Meal. Here we have the X-Wing pilot, or Rebel pilot, whatever you want to call him, and he's just your standard pilot. There's not a whole lot to see here, but he does look good, and he does have a pretty cool helmet print that does kind of have the same colors as L3GO, and as you can see here, he does include a double-sided face. Next up here we have Yessie Scala, I don't know how to say her name, but she's just a new character from the show, and I mean, she looks decent, nothing to go crazy over. She's got a pretty cool looking hairpiece, as well as this pretty unique looking brick built staff and a double-sided face. Here we have Sig Griebling. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the main character of the upcoming show. Again, like the other one, there's not a whole lot to see here, nothing to go crazy over. He's just a pretty normal looking minifigure, although he does have a double-sided face and a pretty cool looking staff, as well as what I think is supposed to be a holocron. Then lastly, we have the TIE pilot. This is the same pilot that came in the Mandalorian Fang Fighter and TIE Interceptor set from last year, and it's just your standard up-to-date modern TIE pilot. There's nothing crazy to see, but it does look really good. And honestly, that's kind of the theme with this whole minifigure lineup. There's nothing really outstanding, but none of the figures are bad. I think the best minifigure is probably the X-Wing pilot, but other than that, the other ones are kind of just take it or leave it. They're not awful figures, but they're just, again, nothing to go crazy over. And now taking a look at the actual builds themselves, starting with the TIE Fighter, I have to say it's not my favorite. My main issue is with the cockpit windshield. I just think it's kind of weird how the actual windshield itself is so small. I have not seen anyone else mention this, but I just think it's so awkward how the actual windshield piece is so small compared to the rest of the size of the cockpit. It really throws off the look for me quite a bit. And then it gets even worse up top. Obviously, since this TIE Fighter is downsized, there's not room for an actual folding hatch, so they use stickers, and as you can see, there's just a massive gap right through the stickers that are supposed to represent the hatch, and it looks terrible. And then also, not to mention, on the sides or the top here, you can see 2 massive green spring-loaded shooters just sticking right out the back. And there is a very specific reason that they put them on the sides like this that I'll show later. However, still to me, I think it looks pretty bad and throws off the look of the TIE Fighter. And what's even weirder is that you have these red transparent pieces right down here on the front that are supposed to represent the actual lasers on the TIE Fighter, but then on the sides you have giant green spring-loaded shooters, and it just, the green and the red don't mix well, and it doesn't look good, to me at least. The very back isn't bad though. There's just some stickers that represent the engines, as well as a little black tile piece in the middle. Now to access the interior, you just lift the front piece up right here, and I said interior, but there's actually nothing on the inside. There's not any control panels, not even stickered control panels. I feel like the least they could have done was throw in some stickers in here, but there's nothing. Although as you'd expect, you can easily grab your TIE pilot and sit him in here and then fold the hatch back down. The wings are probably the only redeeming quality about this TIE Fighter, to me at least, because TIE Fighter wings are kind of just hard to mess up. Regardless though, you're going to see some pretty decent detailing with a sticker in the middle and some grill pieces and detailing around the center. I've seen a lot of people complaining online about these dark gray pieces on the front here that are obviously not matching the rest of the color palette of the wings. And yes, that is annoying, but to me at least, that's honestly the least of my concerns with this build. The real bad stuff is around the cockpit with the windshield piece and the sticker on top and the spring-loaded shooters. It just does not look good to me. And you know, if you're new to collecting LEGO Star Wars, you might not think this TIE Fighter is that bad, but if you've been collecting for at least 7 or 8 years, you'll know that these are the type of TIE Fighters that we used to have, and now we have this, and I mean, the difference is just night and day. The TIE Fighter style that LEGO used to use was just leagues and leagues better in my opinion, and obviously a TIE Fighter like this is way too big to fit in a 2-in-1 set. The set would be like at least $150, but if they're gonna downsize them like this, they at least need to put in more effort, because this is just ugly compared to what we used to have, because again, the difference is just night and day in how good the old ones look and how bad this one looks compared to the old ones. So again, I know they have to downsize, but man, they can do better than this. On a lighter note though, the X-Wing is actually pretty good. My favorite thing about it is that they actually got the shape of the nose down right. Usually with most LEGO X-Wings, the sides of the nose are flat, when if you look at an actual X-Wing, they're not supposed to be flat. They do come down to a bit of a point, and on this one, they actually got the shape right. The sides of the nose aren't flat, and they come down to a point, and it looks really, really good. And also, when you're looking at it from top down, the nose does slightly slope inwards to the very tip. You also might have noticed there is a sticker right here on the front, and then right behind that is going to be a printed windshield piece, and as you'd expect, you can open it up to find a little printed control panel, and then you can very easily sit your pilot in there and close the windshield piece back down, and then take the McDonald's droid and sit it in the spot right behind the cockpit. Now my only gripe with this X-Wing is towards the back. There is actually some pretty big gaps between the body and the wings. It just looks a bit off, and the reason there are gaps right here is because the wings are actually connected with just hinges. It doesn't use the rubber band method that's found on most other LEGO X-Wings, so to open the wings, you just manually grab each individual wing and fold it open. And also there is landing gear on the bottom that can fold up as well. And I have to say, it does look pretty dang good when the S-foils are open like this. I'm actually going to go so far to say that this is one of the best looking X-Wings that LEGO has ever made. They got the shaping of the nose down perfectly, the wings look really good, and it's very sleek. Although again, like I said, my only gripe is with the gaps on the back. Now if you're wondering what the wings themselves look like, there's just some minor detailing with some stickers. They look about as good as they need to, and the actual laser cannons themselves look really good. I've seen a lot of people online complaining about how they don't like these circular pieces on the end because they're not necessarily accurate, and yes, they're not technically accurate. However, I actually like them quite a bit because it gives off this pretty interesting retro look that I think is pretty fun. Here's what the back looks like. The thrusters look pretty good, and then there's some minor detailing with a sticker there in the middle, and also there's this little piece that can fold open right here that's kind of like a hood to access the engine, which I think is pretty cool. Here's what the bottom looks like. There's not a whole lot. You can just get a better look at the landing gear, as well as some spring-loaded shooters that are on the bottom wings that you can, you know, fire as you want to. Although speaking of the landing gear, one thing I didn't mention earlier is that for some reason it's like super tall. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does kind of look a bit awkward because it's just so tall and for no reason really, especially when you compare it to some of the older X-Wings. As you can see, the landing gear is just a lot taller. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I thought I might as well point it out because it does look a bit strange. Now, as I showed earlier, the main play feature with this set is how you can switch the wings around, and to do this, on the bottom of both the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter, there are these little pins that sort of hold the wings in place that you just very easily have to pull out, and then from there, the wings on both models just very easily pop off. They're just held in by one Technic pin, and all you do is just pull it straight out. And then from here, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just switch the wings around on both builds, and then you put the pins back in to hold the wings in place. And a lot of you guys might think this looks weird or think it's some type of gimmick, but I'm gonna be honest, I really like this. And the main reason is that this is very clearly a nod to Star Wars Uglies. If you don't know what Star Wars Uglies are, you have to be very tapped into Star Wars lore and Star Wars legends, but basically they're just bootleg starfighters that pirates or scavengers would build, and they would switch the wings around basically exactly like in this set. And ever since I was a kid, I've always been fascinated by these starfighters because I think they're really unique and really strange and wonky looking, and I like that. And then much to my surprise, we kind of have them in a LEGO set now. It came out of nowhere, and I really appreciate this because I think the producers of the show are clearly making a nod to OG Star Wars Uglies. And also, like I mentioned earlier, the reason the TIE Fighter has these spring-loaded shooters on the outside of the cockpit is because of this play feature, because obviously the X-Wing spring-loaded shooters are on the actual X-Wing itself, so I guess when it gets put on the TIE Fighter, it technically wouldn't have any spring-loaded shooters, and LEGO thinks that's a necessity. So since they wanted this ship to have spring-loaded shooters so bad, I think they could have put them on like the bottom of the X-Wing or something, because again, they just make that TIE Fighter look super ugly. Anyways though, I think the TIE Fighter cockpit with the X-Wing wings looks the best, especially if you have like a display stand like this. It looks pretty cool. The X-Wing with the TIE Fighter wings is cool too, although I think the other one is a lot better. Now, giving this set a rating, and especially if I should recommend it to you guys or not, is not a very easy task. Like I mentioned earlier, I really do not like this TIE Fighter, although on the other hand, I really like the X-Wing, and if this X-Wing was its own set, I would without a doubt recommend it to you guys because I think it looks really good. However, the inclusion of this TIE Fighter is obviously driving the price up like an extra $50 or so it's really kind of hard to say if I'd recommend it, although what I think is best to say is that if you already have a TIE Fighter and an X-Wing, I would honestly just pass on this set unless you really want this X-Wing, which I wouldn't blame you because it is pretty good, and if you somehow do not have a TIE Fighter and X-Wing, I would wait until this set goes on sale because I think $110 is a little bit overpriced. $100 would be more ideal. So again, if you don't have either a TIE Fighter or an X-Wing, I would wait until this goes on sale, maybe $100 or $90. I'm feeling a pretty decent 7.5 out of 10 for this set. Again, the TIE Fighter is just holding the X-Wing back quite a bit. I would give the X-Wing a solid 9 or 9.5 out of 10, but for this set as a whole, I'm feeling a 7.5. So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, continue on screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75394 Imperial Star Destroyer. This set just released on August 1st with 1,555 pieces and a retail price of $160. And this set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, and because of that, it comes with a 25th anniversary Cal Kestis minifigure. And as some of you might know, this is the very first time that LEGO has ever made this character before. And also, speaking of this being a 25th anniversary set, I've said this time and time again, but the 25th anniversary box art is one of my favorite box arts of all time. The silver metallic blue just pops so much and looks really cool to me, and it especially works really well with this Star Destroyer. On the back of the box, you're going to see a render of how the entire set can open up and access the interior, as well as some pictures at the bottom that showcase some of the other play features. And also, if you look at the top here, the back of the box art looks like it's set on Corellia. It's nothing crazy, but I just thought it was cool and something that was worth pointing out. Anyways, now actually opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're going to find 14 separately numbered bags, as well as your instruction manual and a sticker sheet in this cardboard case, with the instruction manual having a pretty ugly and poor looking render on the front of it, which doesn't look that great, but anyways, it also has a total of 300 pages. And then you're going to have a pretty decently large sticker sheet with a total of 13 stickers. The first figures we have up here is the Imperial crew member on the left and then Commander Prodigy on the right, and they both look pretty good. They're about as detailed as they need to be. I kind of wish Prodigy had some leg printing like the crew member, but it's not that big of a deal. Next up here we have the Imperial gunner, and this is also a pretty good looking figure. Very simple, but it gets the job done, and I really like its helmet mold a lot. And if you're wondering, here is what the face looks like underneath. And then next up here we of course have the Family Guy oversized helmet stormtrooper. It's the same one that we've been getting for years now, and I mean, it is just our default stormtrooper in this current time period, but I am always going to point out how I think the helmet is atrociously oversized and blocky looking, and hopefully someday in the coming years LEGO will fix this and we'll get a better stormtrooper helmet mold. Anyways though, if you're wondering, this is what the face looks like underneath. And then next up here we have the Imperial Navy Trooper, and I think this figure looks awesome. It's pretty unique and has a really awesome helmet mold, and also a pretty cool looking double-sided face that I think fits this figure really well. Although it doesn't have leg printing, again, like Captain Prodigy, I wish it did. It's not a big deal, but I mean, it's just preferable because this is a pretty expensive set. Then next up here we have Darth Vader. This is the current arm printed Darth Vader that we have been getting for a few years now. I think it was introduced in 2022, maybe 2021, but it works. I mean, this is arguably, actually not arguably, this is objectively the best Darth Vader they have ever made, and I'm just glad that it's the default one they're using in all of his respective sets now. It's really kind of timeless, and I honestly really wouldn't be surprised if it's here to stay for 10 more years or so. But then last, and certainly not least, we have the most hyped up figure in this set being Cal Kestis, and I think he looks great. He's got a really awesome looking torso print with the brown and the blue. I think it works really well together. He's also got nice leg printing and back printing, along with a pretty cool looking second face face print that's sort of an angry face, although the elephant in the room with this figure is that he does not include his poncho that is pretty heavily shown throughout the game. And I'm honestly with everyone on this. I really wish he would have included his poncho, although at the same time, this figure, in my opinion, does look good enough to where like it's not necessarily the end of the world like some people are making it out to be. But I mean, again, it is the very first time they're making a fairly popular character that people have wanted for a long time, so I do think it's pretty annoying that they didn't give him everything that he needs to have. But at the same time, in my opinion, the prints on the figure do look good enough to where it's not necessarily the end of the world. But again, like everyone else, I do wish he included his poncho. And like the rest of the 25th anniversary figures, he does include a printed plaque that you can connect to the other figures to make a nice little display. But overall, I think this minifigure lineup is pretty solid, besides that Family Guy Stormtrooper, of course, and Cal not having his poncho. I do think for $160, we maybe could have gotten one more figure, maybe a second Imperial Navy Trooper, but I don't think it's that big of a deal because the ones that we do get complement the Star Destroyer pretty well. And speaking of the Star Destroyer itself, I have to say it's gorgeous. I honestly cannot put into words how good this set actually looks. It is so incredibly detailed, and I'd say it is the best looking playscale Star Destroyer that LEGO has made by a long shot. Like, I really am just kind of speechless at how well they did with this. It is just perfectly well built, it's extremely detailed, and just looks really good. Although, the elephant in the room with this set is that it's pretty small, especially compared to the previous two models. I unfortunately don't have the 2014 model on hand right now, but this picture by I Am Wicked on Instagram really shows how much the newer model has been downsized, and here it is compared to the $180 Dark Millennium Falcon that also released on August 1st. And funny enough, this Dark Falcon is basically the same size as the 2019 Millennium Falcon, and the Star Destroyer is the set that got downsized compared to its previous model. And honestly, in my opinion, I think the Falcon was the set that should have been downsized and retailed for $160, and the Star Destroyer should have been the set that was $180 and been the same size as the 2014 model, and also the most expensive playset of the year. And also, I've seen the argument people are making that like, oh, I like how it's smaller because it's easier to fit on shelves or easier to store, and I personally think this is just kind of a dumb argument. I mean, LEGO can't really cater to how much room you have to display your LEGO sets. Like, when they make a new Death Star, you can't expect it to be downsized to fit on your desk or your shelf or something. It's the freaking Death Star. It's gonna be a massive set because it's a massive ship in Star Wars, and the same thing goes for these capital ships like a Star Destroyer. They are very massive ships, so I think it's kind of a no-brainer that they should be the biggest playsets in a year. And if you don't have room to store them or display them, I guess just make room or look for a smaller set. And if you want a better idea of the size, here it is compared to some other sets like the Ghost from last year, which is also $160, and the 2022 ATTE, which is $140. But like I said, the actual Star Destroyer itself, despite being downsized, looks very good, so let's dive into all the details. On the outside of the front here, you're just gonna have some very minor details and very minor greebling, with a few dark gray pieces mixed in on both sides. But when you get up to the middle area and the bulk of the ship is where it starts to get very detailed. The shaping around this area is just impressive. I could go on and on about how good they did with this, and there's even some little clear transparent pieces on the front and both sides to represent some lights and some windows in the Star Destroyer. And there's even lots of detailing and greebling and good shaping on the back of this area as well. They just did a very good job. The big turbo lasers on each side look really good as well. You can point the actual barrels themselves up and down, but the main feature with these things is that on the back here there are these little pieces that stick out, and you can pull and push on them, and what this does is actually make all of the turrets in unison aim back and forth. And I just think this is a really fun play feature. It's super simple, but it works so well, and it's just really fun to play with, to be honest. And then also around this area, these two panels right here can actually lift up to reveal your handle to hold the set. And I have to say, it works really well, and it's actually very sturdy. Like, I'm shaking this thing around pretty hard right here, and it's staying intact and holding up very well. I have to give props to LEGO for making this a pretty structurally sound build. You also might have noticed that there are two green spring-loaded shooters on the front right here, and there are these little buttons on both sides on the back that you can just press down, and it fires both the spring-loaded shooters. And this actually works very well. It's super efficient in how good they fire, and it's definitely one of the best mechanisms I've ever seen on a set to fire spring-loaded shooters. Taking a look at the actual bridge area, it looks super detailed as well. As you can see here, there's a sticker right on the front to represent the windows, and then there's some pretty nice greebling and detailing on the back of both sides, and you can kind of get a good idea at how they're able to pull this shape off. The top looks really good as well, although the actual tractor beams, the balls on each side, are perfectly rounded, when if you look at an actual Star Destroyer, they're sort of like an octagon or honeycomb shape. I don't know how to describe it, but they're not perfectly rounded, and right here they are. It's just a small nitpick on my part. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I do wish these were the right shape. And then this sloped part behind the bridge looks very good as well, whatever you want to call it, the spine I guess. And then right below that you have the engines, which also, like everything else, look really good. I think they got the shaping of this back area and all the details down pretty much perfectly, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Now, to access the interior, this whole section right here can actually just very easily lift up. It just sits on there and isn't attached. And then from there, you can easily fold open both panels on each side, and you have complete and pretty easy access to the entire interior. Now, starting off in the back left here, there is a little stickered control panel as well as 2 crates. The smaller one has detonators in it, and the larger one has a little pair of white binoculars. Then right in front of that, you're gonna have a little desk area with a spinny chair, and the desk has a printed control panel and a coffee cup on it. And you can take one of your figures like Captain Prodigy and sit him in the chair, and he has a little clip for his gun as well. Then in the middle of the back, there are 2 large transparent pieces with some stickers on them that depict some information about the Star Destroyer as well as some information about TIE fighters on the right one. And then right in front of that, you're gonna have a little gun rack with 2 extra blasters. Towards the back right, there is another stickered control panel, and then right below that, you're gonna have this hologram, which I think is supposed to depict some type of battle. It looks like there's the Star Destroyer sitting there, and then the red pieces are supposed to represent enemy ships, I guess. And you can take one of your figures and sit it in front of this like they're kind of analyzing the hologram. Then right next to that, you're gonna have another little area with a blue syringe as well as a printed control panel, and then this little storage thing that has what I guess is just supposed to be a hologram inside of it. And around this area, there is plenty of room for you to sit any of the figures that you want to. And now moving on to the actual bridge itself, at the back of it here, you're gonna find 3 printed control panels as well as quite a few stickers on the center and each side. The centered ones are kind of like staggered, every other one facing the opposite direction. And I guess if you want, there's actually room to sit your Imperial officer down here and act like he's manning the control panels. And then on the bridge walkway itself, obviously that's where you can sit Darth Vader himself. Although as you'd expect, you can't leave him there when you try to close the Star Destroyer back up because there's not enough room, so you'll just have to find somewhere else to sit him. But then from there, you can easily fold both panels on each side back up and then grab your large centerpiece and try to sit it back down. Sometimes it gets caught on things, but it's not too tricky to put back in. And then from there, that is everything there is to see in this Star Destroyer. Now, would I recommend this set to you for $160? And honestly, I think it's pretty worth it. The build, for the most part, actually feels like it's worth its retail price, which is pretty rare for LEGO Star Wars sets today in 2024. And also, this is the first playscale Star Destroyer they've made in literally 10 years. I think that alone is a good enough reason to go out and get this set if you don't have the 2014 or 2006 model. And I honestly just think this is going to end up being one of those sets that's on shelves for at least 3 or 4 years just because it's so popular and exceed the typical 2-year lifespan of LEGO Star Wars sets. So there's really no rush to go out and get this right now. It's probably going to be on shelves for years and years to come, but I do recommend that at some point you guys go out and try to get your hands on this if you don't have the previous 2 models, because it is a really great set. Like I said, the detailing is just immaculate. It's the best looking Star Destroyer LEGO has made by a long shot, although again, I do think it is a bit too small, so because of that, I'm just going to take off half the point and give it a 9.5 out of 10. I truly think this thing is incredible. I just wish it was a little bit bigger. Let me know what you think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75396 Desert Skiff and Sarlacc Pit. This set will be releasing in just about a week from now on August 1st with 558 pieces and a retail price of $80 US, possibly making this one of the most overpriced sets of all time. On the bright side though, it is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, so because of that, it comes with an exclusive 25th anniversary Nien Nunb minifigure, and this is actually the first time LEGO has ever made him. I thought he came in the 2014 B-Wing, but no, that was Tin Nub all along, and I guess I didn't know. So it's very exciting that we are finally seeing this iconic character in this set. And then taking a look at the back of the box, you're going to find another render of the Desert Skiff and the Sarlacc Pit, along with multiple pictures showing all of the play features. And also, speaking of the box in general, I know I've said this time and time again this year with these sets, but the 25th anniversary box art is one of the best box arts LEGO has ever made. I don't know what it is, it's just super bright and appealing, and I think it looks really great. But now actually digging into the box, on the inside you're going to find 6 numbered bags, along with these 2 loose brown wire pieces, and not 1 but 2 separate instruction manuals. And now moving on to the minifigures, first up here we have Han Solo, and for the most part he looks about as good as he needs to look. There is no leg printing, but at the same time he doesn't necessarily need it, and as you can see he does have a double-sided face print, with the second face being his sort of closed eye look. And then next up here we have Luke Skywalker, and I think he looks great. I really like the gray and the black combination. It isn't necessarily accurate, but at the same time I do think it just looks pretty dang good. And if you're wondering, yes, this Luke Skywalker is exclusive. He does have have different printing than the one that came in the final Duel diorama from last year, and he too also has a double-sided face. Then next up here we have one of the best figures in this set, being Lando Calrissian in his guard disguise, and I think he looks incredible. His helmet mold is awesome, and he has pretty much flawless printing from head to toe, as well as some pretty nice back printing here, and just like Han and Luke, he too has a double-sided face. Then next up here we have Boba Fett, which is the controversial and sort of hot topic for this set, and before I get into that, I do have to say this figure on its own does look very good. He's got great printing all around, even underneath his jetpack on the back, as well as very nice arm printing on both arms, although the main problem and the reason this figure is controversial is because this is the episode 5 version of Boba Fett, and clearly this is an episode 6 set. If you don't know the difference, in episode 6 his armor is not supposed to be light blue, it's actually supposed to be more of a gray color, and they got this right with the desert skiffs in the past, and they even included his green pauldron, but in this one they messed up and gave us the episode 5 version of Boba Fett, and on top of that he doesn't have his pauldron. And I think the reason that this is the wrong Boba Fett is because this is the exact same Boba Fett that was in the Mech from last year, which is kind of based off of episode 5 if you'd say, and I would love to give LEGO the benefit of the doubt, but this just seems too obvious. I think they just didn't want to design a new Boba Fett, and they already had this one in production, so they just decided to throw him in this set, and that's honestly really disappointing. We haven't gotten an episode 6 Boba Fett in a very long time, and this was our chance to see an upgraded one with arm printing, and they didn't give it to us. They were lazy and gave us another episode 5 version. On the bright side though, Nien Nunb looks really good. LEGO did a pretty much perfect job with this figure. I really don't have much to say. He just looks really dang good all around, and this is probably going to be a selling point for this set for a lot of people. And like the other 25th anniversary figures, he does come with the 25th anniversary stand that you can connect to the stands of the other 25th anniversary figures and make a little display. And then very last and pretty much least, we have Chewbacca. There's not much to see here. This is the same Chewbacca that we have literally been getting for about a decade now, I think. But I mean, it works and he still holds up with the other figures. At this point, Chewbacca is kind of just like one of the battle droids. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. Now, besides Boba Fett being inaccurate, which is pretty much unacceptable for $80, the rest of the figures look really good. However, there is one figure that's missing that this set desperately needed, and later you'll see why this is more of a problem, but it's a weak-way guard. And the reason this set needs it is because there's literally no antagonists in this set besides Boba Fett. If you look on the box art, literally all of the main good guy characters are on the skiff by themselves, and there's no weak-way guard in sight, and I just think it looks a bit goofy. And on top of that, there are supposed to be weak-way guards in the upcoming UCS sail barge in October, which just doesn't make much sense. In the movie, they were seen on the desert skiffs, they weren't really seen inside the sail barge, so why couldn't LEGO just add one into this set? And for how overpriced this set is, I think we could have easily gotten 8 figures, the extra one being the weak-way guard obviously, but if LEGO just wants to cheap out that much, I think they should have just put Lando in the UCS sail barge and put a weak-way guard in this set. It would have made way more sense for playability, and this version of Lando is not necessarily a super popular character. He's not Captain Rex, so I don't think any kids would really care that he's not in this set. But now moving on to the actual builds themselves, I think they both look really good. First, taking a look at the Sarlacc pit here, a lot of people online are talking about how they don't like how many sand pieces there are and how big and tall it is, but I honestly really like the way that this looks. I just like terrain and LEGO sets in general, and I think they did a great job with the sand here, and I also just really like how they raised it off the ground and then lowered the middle end and actually tried to make it look like it's a pit. They sold it pretty well, and I'm actually pretty impressed with it. Another thing people don't like is that the back end is kind of just bare bones. There's just a black Technic piece back here, but this doesn't even matter at all because if you're displaying it, you can just face this in towards the wall and it still looks really good on display. Another thing you might have noticed on the back is that there are these 2 levers right here, and if you turn them, you can actually make both the tentacles move, and I think it looks really great. This is an awesome play feature that's very simple, but at the same time just fun to play with because it looks really cool and makes it look like it's actually alive. The beak, on the other hand, has to be manually opened and closed, I mean, which isn't a bad thing, and if you're wondering, it's just connected via these clips, and if you want, you can grab one of your minifigures, maybe Boba Fett, and put him in the mouth, which does kind of sound like a goofy idea, but I'm not gonna lie, it looks really cool, and this would definitely be a great way to display this Sarlacc pit. And then towards the middle on the inside, there are some teeth pieces and a few dark tan pieces to add some extra detail. Now, one slight problem I have with this build is around the inside, it's just a bit too open and a bit too flat. I think it would have helped a lot if the tentacles were maybe just one stud closer to the beak, or if there were tentacles on the front and the back as well, and not just on the 2 sides. To me at least, it just looks a bit too spacey around the mouth area and the tentacles, but for the most part, with the Sarlacc pit as a whole, they did a very good job, and I'm pretty impressed with it. Now, taking a look at the desert skiff, I think it looks pretty much flawless. I'm honestly kind of speechless with how good this is. Now, you could say that it shouldn't be tan, it should be more of a dark brown color, but I mean, I don't think it really matters because if you look at pictures of desert skiffs, sometimes they're dark browns, sometimes they're tan, and sometimes they're gray, so I don't think it really matters that LEGO chose this color. On the front here, you're gonna have some really nice shaping, as well as this wire piece that kind of goes around and adds for some nice detail, and if you want, this is a really good place to sit Han and Chewie in their handcuffs. And then towards the middle here, this railing piece can swing open, and then on the other side, there is this little circular tile that you can push that actually makes the plank come out. It's super easy, it's just plates sliding on top of each other, and it works really well. And then obviously you can take Luke Skywalker and sit him on the end of the plank. Although the problem is, who is actually behind him making him walk off? The only figures behind him are Lando, Han, and Chewie. Yes, Lando is on the desert skiff in the scene, but he's not the one making Luke walk off. It's a weakway guard. Again, it should have had one. And then it gets even worse. Towards the back here, you can see a very nice looking control panel or control station, 2 joysticks, whatever you want to call it. They look really good. Like I said, this desert skiff is pretty much flawless, although there's unfortunately no weakway guard to drive the skiff. You could throw Boba Fett back here, but that looks really goofy and is not accurate to the scene at all. So I guess Luke, Han, and Lando just drove the desert skiff to the Sarlacc pit because they wanted to, and Luke is walking the plank because he feels like it. Anyways, on the bright side, the very back of the skiff also looks very good. There's these 4 thrusters back here that are kind of staggered and give off a really cool look, and then you also have the 2 large fin pieces back here with a really nice use of the sun hat piece. They can move up and down and sort of twist here, and you can position them how you want. However, I think they look best when you sort of angle them down like this. And then if you're wondering what the bottom looks like, there's really nothing to see, just the bottom of the plates and then these transparent pieces that hold it up and sort of make it appear like it's hovering. And speaking of those transparent pieces holding it up, the actual desert skiff itself is not much taller than the Sarlacc pit. You can just barely have the plank over the actual mouth, but I think it looks a bit crammed. So in my opinion, the best way to display it is just like this, just space them out a little bit. Now the builds and the figures that actually belong in this set, especially Nien Nunb, are really the only thing this set has going for it. Again, the price is just absolutely terrible. $80 for this. I don't care about price per piece. I don't care about price per gram. This is not even close to $80. I think at most it should have been $65. They might have been able to get away with $70, but $65 preferably. $80 just way too much. But again, like I said, the builds are really nice, and Nien Nunb is an awesome figure, and so is Lando. So if you ever find this set on sale for below $70, I would highly recommend that you pick it up for the Sarlacc pit build, the desert skiff build, and for Nien Nunb. But for $80, unless you just for some reason really want it, I would just not get this set. So again, the builds are great, the figures that belong in this set are great, although they gave us an episode 5 version of Boba Fett, and there is not a weakway guard when there very clearly should be one, and the price again is just atrocious. So I'm feeling a pretty generous 7.8 out of 10. I would give it a 7.5, but again, those builds are really good, so I'm gonna give it 0.3 points and make it a 7.8. Let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75398 C3PO. This set just released on August 1st with 1,138 pieces and a retail price of $140. This is the only 18 plus set that is releasing in this large August wave, and it's honestly getting kind of overshadowed by a lot of the other sets, which in my opinion actually makes this kind of underrated. Anyways though, on the back of the box you're going to find another render of the build, as well as some pictures of C3PO and R2-D2 in episode 4, and then at the top right you're going to find a diagram of the dimensions of this build. Oh, and also on the side of the box there's also this cool little logo of C3PO and R2-D2. Anyways, actually opening up the box and diving in, on the inside you're going to find 11 separately numbered bags, as well as this cardboard case that contains your instruction manual and your sticker sheet. Since this is an 18 plus set, by tradition, the first few pages of the instruction manual have a lot of information about the build. You can pause and read all this if you want to. It is a pretty fun read. There's a lot of information about C3PO and Star Wars, information about C3PO and LEGO, information about the person who designed this set, and then from there you're going to hop straight into your building process. The one and only minifigure in this set is of course C3PO himself, and this is the exact same one that came in the UCS Luke's Landspeeder from 2022 that is extremely detailed with the dual molded legs and side leg printing, and then the one leg being a gray leg, as well as arm printing. This really has it all. It's a top-notch figure, and it makes sense that they reuse this one. I mean, this is an 18 plus set that retails for $140, so it really makes sense that they're putting in the highest quality C3PO they have. And you also might have noticed this set comes comes with a plaque that can hold a minifigure that has all the information about C-3PO himself in Star Wars, as well as this little 25th anniversary brick that has been coming with a lot of different sets this year. The C-3PO build itself is impressive, to say the least. It's obviously not the most popular set this year, and definitely not the most popular set from this wave, although that does not mean it should be overlooked. When I built this thing, I was genuinely kind of blown away about how good of a job they did with it. It's not 100% perfect though, which I will dive into all of that, but for the most part, this thing is really impressive. The little stand and terrain area is probably my favorite part of this build. I always like when some type of terrain is included in LEGO Star Wars sets, and this is a perfect example of that. And also, not to mention, the way they were able to get the feet to sit on the terrain at the angle they're sitting at is really impressive. It has a pretty ingenious design with ball joints to be able to achieve this stance, and I was actually having a really fun time building it because I just thought it was really fun and creative. And also, if you look at it from the side, his legs are actually slightly leaning forward and then his chest is popping out, which really captures that sort of curious and perked up look that C-3PO is supposed to have, and it's pretty cool. The actual legs and feet themselves look good too, especially the silver one. It's got a mix of light bluish gray and chromed out silver pieces. I saw some people online complaining that there would be too much of a contrast between these two colors, but now that I have it in person, it's actually not that noticeable, and I think it blends really well, and it wouldn't look as good if it was all one color. And then moving on from there, his thighs, his butt, his crotch, it all looks pretty good for the most part. LEGO did a good job and had the attention to detail on these parts. And right above the waist area, there's going to be some stickers that wrap all the way around, and honestly, this is an 18+ set, so I would prefer these to be printed. However, it's not that big of a deal because they're pretty large stickers, they weren't very hard to put on, and in the end, they do add some great detail around this area. And then right above them, on the center of his chest, is going to be this printed circular disc piece, as well as this printed tile at the top of his chest that sort of gives him some pecs. His hands are on ball joints, so they can move pretty freely and pose however you want, and there's also stickers in his palms that represent some exposed wire. His fingers can also move up and down and pose how you want. They look pretty good, but for some reason, for me at least, these were like kind of a pain to build because you have to space them out evenly. Maybe it was just my OCD, I don't know. And then his arms at the shoulders can spin pretty much all the way around 360 degrees. They can't actually bend at the elbow joint. They can twist a little bit, but they can't bend. But what really matters is that they can move at the shoulders, and because of this, you can make some pretty unique poses with it. And the arms themselves look really good. There's some nice detailing around the shoulders, and there's even these pieces that are supposed to represent the hydraulic pistons that move with his arms. Now, everything about this set has been pretty much perfect so far, although the head, specifically his face, is really where the problems are. It's kind of like the same thing that Chewbacca had from last year, although not near as bad. Something about his eyes and his mouth just look off. I can't really point it out, but it just doesn't look right, although I can't really count this against them too much because like it is brick built. There's a very limited amount of ways they can make an actual face, so I do think they probably did the best they could have done. It just still doesn't look completely right. I really think the actual worst part is with his mouth. The triangle piece just stands out so much. It is printed, by the way, but still, it stands out so much. And the only thing I can think of to really make this a little bit better is to make those slope pieces the same color as the actual mouthpiece, because if you look really close, the slope pieces behind the mouth are a bit of a darker shade of gold, and I think if they were both the same colors, it would blend in a bit more and not stand out as much and look as awkward. But other than that, I really don't think there's much they could have done. I think it just kind of inevitably is going to look off because it's hard to make a face with LEGO pieces. But on the bright side though, the back of his head looks good. Now, one of the most hyped up and talked about things with this set is that it was said to be able to pair really well with the buildable R2-D2 that came out in March, and I have to say it definitely does. This is a 10 out of 10 display piece right here. They are to scale with each other and you can pose them in many different ways and they look amazing. I honestly think if you have the R2-D2 from last year, this set is almost a must buy. And even better, if you're one of those weirdos that bought the $200 Chewbacca from last year like me, he is also to scale with C-3PO and R2-D2, so it literally makes for the perfect trio and the perfect display piece. Buildable characters aren't the most talked about or fan favorited sets, but when they pair together like this, they are incredible. Although back to C-3PO, would I recommend this set to you for $140? Now, if you have the R2-D2 from March, I think it's almost a no-brainer because they just fit so well together. Although if you don't have the R2-D2 and you're on the fence, I would honestly wait until it goes on sale because I do think $140 is a bit overpriced. I think $120 would have been way more fitting, but again, if you have the R2-D2, I think $140 is worth it just because this display piece for a total of $240 looks absolutely phenomenal. But if you do not have the R2-D2, I would would honestly advise you to wait until it goes on sale. But other than it potentially being overpriced, I really have no issues with this set at all. I think the build is incredible. I would count how the face looks against them, but I mean, again, like, I think they did the best they could. I really do. It's nearly impossible to make faces with Lego. They maybe could have improved it somehow, but there's really no blatantly obvious ways that this could be better. So because of that, I would give the actual build itself a 10 out of 10. But for a set as a whole, I'm feeling a pretty strong 9.5 out of 10 just because I think that price point is a bit too high. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing. And if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 40755 Imperial Dropship vs Rebel Scout Speeder. The set just released on October 1st with 383 pieces and a retail price of $40 US, the price of 2 combined battle packs. And this set is part of celebrating the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, hence the 25th anniversary logo, as well as a 25th anniversary figure being the Droid QTKT. There's a really awesome story behind this. If you haven't looked into it, I would advise you to. Anyways though, one thing I want to say is that I absolutely love this box art. I mean, I've really enjoyed all the 25th anniversary set box arts throughout the year, but this one is probably my favorite. It just looks very nostalgic to me, one because the Rebel Scout Speeder and Imperial Dropship were 2 of my first ever LEGO sets that I got for Christmas, and second, just because I really like the combination of the tan and the blue. It just looks really good to me. Anyways though, on the back you're going to find a much more open view and render of the 2 builds, with some extra pictures up in the top right corner showcasing some of the build's features. But now actually opening the box and digging in on the inside, you're going to find 6 numbered bags, which is kind of a lot for a set with only 380 pieces, as well as 1 instruction manual for your Imperial Dropship and 1 instruction manual for your Scout Speeder, and a small sticker sheet with 6 stickers. Here we have the Rebel Fleet Troopers, and I think these guys look awesome. They've always been some of my favorite figures. They are all 3 identical in terms of printing, except one of them has a different face print. And speaking of face prints, they all also have double-sided face prints as well. Now, a lot of people would have preferred these guys to have dual molded legs, and I agree, it would have made them look better, or at least just some type of leg printing, but besides that, these are great figures and they're very nostalgic to me. Next up here we have the 3 stormtroopers, and there's not much to see here. They're just the typical Family Guy stormtroopers that we have been getting since 2019, and the reason I say Family Guy stormtroopers is because, as you guys know, those helmets are extremely oversized. I mean, they don't look bad just compared to what we've gotten in the past. They're the weakest stormtrooper helmet that LEGO has designed, and I hope they update it soon. And then lastly, we have the 25th anniversary figure being QTKT, and I think this figure surprisingly looks really good. Although if you look at the actual droid in Star Wars, there is a bit more white on it, so I do think this one could have benefited from having some more white printing here and there. Although speaking of the white printing, one thing I want to point out is that this is a solid pink brick that has white printed straight onto it, and there is no pink bleeding through underneath the white. It's literally solid white. So why is the color bleeding through not a problem on this figure, but other figures? I'm not sure. Anyways though, as you saw earlier, the figure does come with a 25th anniversary brick that you can use to connect to the other 25th anniversary stands. And overall, this is definitely a solid minifigure lineup. I like how all of the troopers are pretty much identical, although for $40 it doesn't feel like it's quite enough. And also the stormtroopers are missing a shadow trooper. I mean, it's not the biggest deal, but the 2008 dropship had one, the 2019 dropship had one, so I think this one should have one too, even if it just meant replacing one of the stormtroopers with the shadow trooper. But now taking a look at the builds, I have to say they're pretty surprising. And I say surprising because these definitely aren't battle pack builds. They're a little bit more compact than your average battle pack build would be. Starting off with the Imperial Dropship, as many of you know, this is the 3rd Imperial Dropship LEGO has made, and as you can see, they've kind of gone a different route with the design. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like it. Yeah, it's a way better built model, but compared to the others, its shaping is really weird looking. My main issue is just with the cockpit piece being so big and sticking out like this. It's so out of proportion with the rest of the ship that it looks like the back half has just been cut off, like this isn't the complete model, and I don't know, it just looks a bit off to me. Again, it's more compact and better built than the other 2 models, but I don't think it looks as good. Anyways though, as you'd expect, you can open up the cockpit and find a little printed control panel, and obviously room to sit your stormtrooper, what should be a shadow trooper. And if you're wondering, the cockpit is connected via a ball joint, so that's kind of how it's able to get this downward facing angle. Anyways though, then on the side you're going to find 2 stud shooters that you can fire as you please, and then on the back here towards the engines and I guess the wings, this whole section can kind of like rotate up and down, and I think this is pretty cool because because like when you have it in its landing position, you can have it sort of pointed up to where it lifts off, and then when it's flying, you can have it pointing straight, which I think is cool. You also might notice there's some stickers placed all around the ship, just some Imperial logos to add some detail, and if you're wondering, this is what the bottom looks like, nothing much. And then as you'd expect, you can obviously grab your stormtroopers and sit them back here, and there are 2 clips on each side to hold the pilot and one of the stormtroopers on the back's guns. And then from there, your dropship is ready to go. It definitely looks better with some stormtroopers on the back, however still compared to the old ones, I just think it looks a bit goofy. On the bright side though, the Rebel combat speeder is absolutely incredible. If you consider this set to be a battle pack, I kid you not, this is the best battle pack build we have ever gotten. It's not even close. This thing is small, but it is so detailed and so compact and just looks really awesome. Like, I just want a whole army of these things. LEGO really did do a phenomenal job with this little speeder. As you can see, it's got some really nice sort of curved shaping, as well as some stickers on the side and a Rebel logo on the front. There is a little printed control panel in there, as well as room to sit 2 of your Rebel troopers sort of back to back like this. And then the 3rd Rebel trooper is going to go up here on top of the gun. And also, as you could probably tell, the gun can spin around, and there are some more stud shooters up here that you can fire as you want to. The actual barrel itself can also point up and down, pretty much straight up and a little bit downwards. But my favorite thing about it is that on the end, there's like that pointed spear piece, which I think is awesome. It gives it a unique design. And then the whole cannon itself can actually very easily pop off, where you're going to find a little storage area, I guess, where you can put the Rebels' guns and then put the cannon back on there. You also might have noticed the engines back here, they look pretty cool as well. And also, if you're wondering, this is what the bottom looks like, not a whole lot going on. But still, I think this Rebel Scout Speeder looks incredible. I'm not even joking, I want a whole entire army of these things. In my opinion, it's easily the best battle pack build LEGO has ever made. It's going to look great in mocks, and it's going to look great in large quantities. As for the set as a whole goes though, again, the Imperial dropship just looks a bit goofy, and also it's missing a Shadow Trooper, which is honestly kind of unfortunate, but I see what LEGO was going for here. They wanted 3 of each trooper, and they clearly designed these vehicles to only hold 3 minifigures. But in a perfect world, honestly, we would have gotten 4 Rebel Troopers as well as 4 Stormtroopers, one of them being a Shadow Trooper, obviously, but I think that would have probably raised the price to maybe $45, so I actually am kind of happy with what they did, although in my personal opinion, I would have preferred if they just went ahead and replaced one of the Stormtroopers with a Shadow Trooper. Another thing I want to note is that the price is also a bit too high. I don't think it's as bad as people are saying it is, but I wish it was just $5 less at $35. It just doesn't quite feel like it's worth $40. Again, if it had 2 more figures, that being a Shadow Trooper and a Rebel Trooper, I honestly think the price could be up to $45, but with what we have here, I think it should have been $35. On the bright side though, I think it's going to be extremely easy to find this set for under retail. If it doesn't go on sale in any stores, I'm pretty sure it'll be easy to find under retail on Bricklink or eBay. I'm feeling a solid 8.5 out of 10 for this set. Overall, I think it's really good. That Scout Speeder is incredible, but the Stormtrooper side of things could use a bit more, like a Shadow Trooper. Anyways guys, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see me on the screen right now. So here it is, the UCS Sail Barge. We finally have it now. Rumors and talk of this set have been going around for at least the past 2 years, and now we finally have it. It seems like it's been forever. Set number 75397 with 3,942 pieces and a retail price of $500 US. I'm just gonna say right now, that's very overpriced, but I'll get to that. The first thing I want to talk about is the box art, and obviously it has that all black UCS box art that LEGO has been using recently, although I do have to say, with this being the sail barge based on Tatooine, I think it would have been really nice to have a bright, vibrant Tatooine background. It would have just looked cool and made the set look a bit more appealing in my opinion. Although one thing that's cool is that on the top of the box, you're going to have all the figures included in this set. There's a lot of them. And then of course, Jabba the Hutt himself, the first one in 11 years. And then on the back of the box, there's a lot of various things back here, like some pictures at the bottom showcasing a lot of the scenes from episode 6, as well as a little blueprint showing the dimensions of the set at the right. And then at the top, you're going to have a big showcase of the interior of this set and how these side panels can fold down. It gets even better when you open the box up. There's going to be a lot of art with some pictures of the sail barge, and then Jabba the Hutt, and then of course Max Rebo the goat. And then on the inside, you're going to find 2 more boxes, where on the sides it's going to say Jabba's sail barge in a bunch of various different languages. And then you're going to have art of Max Rebo, which you just saw, and then also art of Salacious B. Crumb. And then inside these boxes is where you're going to find your bags. And dumping these out, there is a lot in here. The first box contains 17 bags. bags, and the second box contains 19 bags for a total of 36 bags. There's also some other stuff like 2 instruction manuals, a sticker sheet with 13 stickers, 2 little paper bags which contain both halves of Jabba the Hutt, which I found to be kind of weird, and then a large paper sort of pamphlet that contains the cloth sails, and I was actually a bit surprised to see these were cloths. When this set got revealed, I saw people online saying they were plastic, but it's really nice to see that they're actually cloth. And then you're just gonna have 2 loose unnumbered bags with some larger pieces as well as your printed plaque and a few of those long cable pieces. In typical UCS fashion, the first instruction manual contains a lot of information about the set that you can read about. There's tons of stuff in here about Jabba's sail barge in Star Wars, the Sarlacc pit scene in Star Wars, information about the designers and how they designed this set and the whole process they went through, as well as various different pictures showcasing the different features of the set, including this one that shows the designers with the sail barge as well as the desert skiff and Sarlacc pit from earlier this year, which I find to be kind of ironic because honestly for $500 a Sarlacc pit and desert skiff should have been included in this set. But anyways, there's a lot in here. You can pause and read it if you want to, and then of course at the very end it's tradition for them to show us how to pick up the set, like we can't figure it out on our own. The second instruction manual is not much to see. You just jump straight back into the building process from where you left off in the first one and go all the way to where you're done, where you're going to find a total of 873 separate steps for this build. I didn't time myself, but I am a slow builder and I estimate this took me around 7 hours to build, and there is definitely a lot to show off. But first off, let's start with the minifigures. Here we have R2-D2 and C-3PO, and starting with R2-D2, he looks phenomenal. I mean, the figure itself is just your normal R2-D2 that we have been getting for years now, but the cool part is the table piece on his head with the glasses that actually have liquid in them. I've never seen pieces like these before. I'm sure they came in other sets, but still they just look really cool. It's such a little extra amount of detail, but it goes a long way. C-3PO on the other hand is not so good. Well, I mean, the figure itself is fine. It's got good printing on the front and the back and good arm printing. However, it's not the C-3PO that should be in this set. Here's the C-3PO that came in the buildable C-3PO that you see up there on the shelf, and this figure is currently the most accurate and best C-3PO that LEGO has ever made, and it's still in production right now because that C-3PO set is still on shelves, and for some reason LEGO did not put it in this set. I know everyone is complaining about this right now, but I mean for good reason. There was no reason to include the lesser version of C-3PO when there is currently a great one in production right now that is more accurate and better. This is a UCS set that I paid $500 for, and I expect the best of everything. Anyways though, going from bad to good, next up here we have Slave Leia, or Hutt Slayer Leia, whatever LEGO calls her. The printing all around is great, and she's got these awesome dual molded legs. Some people have been saying how they don't like the dual molded legs with the side leg printing, but I think it's fine and I think it looks great. She's also got good back printing and a very nice hairpiece, although the reason I said nearly perfect is because I wish there was some arm printing, specifically one of those like gold arm rings that she wears in the movie. I think that simple detail would have made this figure just a bit better. This is a UCS set, so I just expect detail on all of the figures. Anyways though, next up here we have the fan favorite Max Rebo, and he looks great. He's a very simple figure. Really the most notable part about him is that headpiece, which actually is fairly detailed. It's got some creases and dimples here and there that just add a nice look. Again, it's very simple, but it's a fan favorite and it looks cool and it's unique, and I don't have the 2013 one to compare it to, but if you're wondering, they are basically exactly the same except for just an ever so slightly different shade of blue used on the headpiece. Next up here we have Bib Fortuna, and he looks great except for his headpiece because it's the same one from Boba Fett's throne room, which is the Book of Boba Fett Bib Fortuna, which is like the fat old version. But other than his headpiece being a bit inaccurate, he looks great, got great printing on the front and the back, and as you can see here, he does have a double-sided face. Next up here we have the Gamorrean Guard. This is also the same one from Boba Fett's throne room, so nothing new to see here, but this is a great figure that definitely gets the job done. Here we have Jabba's goons, or henchmen, whatever you want to call them. I think they look really awesome, except for the fact that they don't have leg printing. First up here we have Azam, very basic figure, but I like his look. I love the yellow and blue, and it's cool that he has the same headpiece as Pow from Krennic's Imperial Shuttle in 2016. Next up here we have Woof, that is literally his name, W-O-O-O-F, and he looks great. He's got an awesome head print with that sort of sand green color, as well as a pretty interesting hat piece and a double-sided face. And then lastly for Jabba's goons we have Kathaba. This is also just a cool and unique looking figure. I love his face print and his headpiece, and he's also got nice printing on both the front and back. Again, all three of these figures look great. They're nice background characters and aliens. I just wish they had leg printing. Again, this is a UCS set. Even if it was something as small as just creases on their pants, it would have worked. Next up here we have probably the most controversial figure in this set, being Salacious B. Crumb, and in person he definitely does not look as bad as he did in those pictures that leaked a while ago. Lego, but I do have to say he literally looks soulless without pupils in his eyes, and like everyone else, I do think the 2013 one is a bit better. And then lastly, we have Jabba the Hutt, probably the best figure in this set if you'd even consider him to be a figure. He's very similar to the last one we got in 2013, he's just got a few different printing patterns, and as you can see here, he's got the Hutt logo printed on his right arm. Overall, this is just a great figure, and on the little stand with the plaque, there is a place to sit him. There's this little green brick right here that kind of indicates that's where he goes. There's also going to be your 25th anniversary brick on this stand, as well as the plaque for the sail barge itself, and this is in the matte finish. It's not in the glossy finish that was in the TIE Interceptor from earlier this year, and it looks great except for that mold dimple. I usually don't care about the mold dimples on these plaques, although this one doesn't look good. I think because it's so close to the actual sail barge itself, it just looks like it's kind of in the way. Again, I don't usually care about the mold dimples on these, but this one is very, very noticeable. But overall, I think this stand looks great with Jabba the Hutt and the two plaques on it. Also, one thing you might have noticed earlier is that there is actually one big long stand to hold all the other minifigures as well. And I love this thing. I think it's a great inclusion for extra displayability, although I kind of wish it was left out, and that's because I think the minifigure lineup is actually kind of lacking, and I think if this was left out, we maybe could have gotten one or two more minifigures. I know that logic might be kind of dumb, but that's how I'm thinking about this. Specifically some weakway guards, because they are literally everywhere in the Sarlacc pit scene, and there's none in the Desert Skiff set from August, and there's also none in this set, so I honestly think if this stand was left out, we could have maybe gotten a weakway guard or two. The figure lineup is definitely solid, although there is not enough of them, and what we do have should be a bit better. Anyways though, enough talk about minifigures, let's actually look at the build itself, and I have to say, it surprisingly looks pretty solid. Now, it's in no way perfect, there are definitely some problems it has, although it looks way better than it does in the product images, especially in this one right here. I don't know how LEGO messed this picture up so bad, but it makes this set look not good at all. But in person, I am happy to say that it looks way better than it does in the product images. Although, to no one's surprise, it does not feel like a $500 build at all. Maybe $450 at the highest, but preferably somewhere between $400 and $430. This just does not feel like $500. Although diving into the nitty-gritty, starting off with the side paneling, the back of the side paneling is really where this set shines the most, I think. There is so much detail back here. I think LEGO did a phenomenal job. This is probably my favorite area of the set just because of the amount of detail. There's even some nice scribbling down at the bottom that's not even very easy to see. On the sides here, you're going to have the fins that are pretty easy to move because they're on ball joints and they can move pretty much anywhere you want them to. They also look really well, except for that sticker. It doesn't look bad. Again, this is a UCS set. I just wish it was printed, but for the most part, I think the fins look great. Also back here, you're going to find the windows or hatches that can open up that are seen throughout the scene in the movie. There's 8 of them on each side, and I think they look really good. They add just even more detail in this back area, although unfortunately, there's not really a great way to make the minifigures pop their heads out. But again, besides a few nitpicks here and there, this back section looks incredible, and it's really where this set shines. Although when you move from the back to the middle section of the side panels, that's where it kind of starts to get a bit rough. For me at least, there's just too many studs showing, and it's just way too cookie cutter throughout this middle area. I just think it looks pretty bland and boring, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's how the sail barge looks in Star Wars. Well, no, not necessarily. If you look, there's actually quite a bit of detail on the side of the ship in Star Wars, and I think LEGO could have easily added more detail on the side here, just some different tiles here and there, maybe some like 1x4s or 1x6s here and there, and also sprinkled a little bit more dark brown just to make it more detailed and not so bland and boring in this side section. When you're looking at it directly from the side, I just don't think it looks as good as it could. Although continuing on to the front, like the back, the front section looks great as well. There's actually a good amount of detail and tile to stud ratio, and the shaping up here is very, very impressive. I know the front of this ship has a very awkward shape, but LEGO did a phenomenal job at capturing it here, and I'm very impressed. Also, one thing that's worth noting is there is some minimal detailing at the very bottom going all the way across from front to back, and I think it's great that LEGO added some detail down here, even though it's not necessarily very easy to see. Taking a look up top at the sails here, they look pretty much perfect. I think they're great. The shaping on them is awesome, the color's perfect, and they have those black stripes. Although one complaint I have is that they're not very high up off the deck of the ship. It looks pretty crammed up here, especially depending on which angle you look at it. It almost looks like the sails are just laying directly on top, although thankfully the sails can very easily be removed. You just pull them straight off. And if you're wondering, here's what the design of the actual like mast, I guess, of them looks like. It's fairly simple but detailed, and it's on a ball joint so it can sort of move back and forth to pose however you want. And then to put them back on, you just sit the Technic pins straight back into the slot, and then you can kind of angle them up and down however you want, but obviously they're supposed to go at sort of a downward sloping angle. The deck itself looks incredible too. There is a lot of detail up here, and it actually resembles a pirate ship, which I really like because the sail barge really is just a space pirate ship. Starting off in the front here, there's some detailing with some cables and then the railing that wraps around, and as you can see here, there are some studs showing, indicating where you can sit some minifigures up here. Then right behind that, there are these hatches that can open up, which lead down into the interior of the build, and as you can see, there's a little ladder inside of there where you can kind of have a minifigure act like he's climbing up. Right behind that, you're gonna have this big gun mounted to the side of the railing that looks awesome. You can have a figure behind it, and it sort of can move up and down. Then right behind that, there's gonna be this sort of box that can open up. I'm honestly not really sure what this is supposed to be. You guys can let me know in the comments. And then right behind that, you're gonna have the main turret, which looks very good. This thing is extremely detailed, and just like in the movie, you can grab Leia and sit her on here like she's manning it. Although one thing I do have to say is that with Leia on this turret, the deck itself feels a bit crammed. I honestly wish it was maybe 1 or 2 studs wider. Regardless though, right behind the turret, you're gonna find a little ladder and some stairs that move up to the high point of the deck, where you're gonna find a little table that looks awesome and some more studs to sit some more figures. And this is what it looks like when you put the sails back on. Like I said earlier, the sails are very close to the deck of the ship. It just looks a bit crammed. I think they should have just been a tiny bit taller just to make it more spacious up here. And speaking of space, there actually is quite a bit of empty space up here where more figures could fit. I wonder which ones those should have been. Now to get inside the sail barge, first thing you do is take the sails off obviously, and then these side panels just very easily fold down on both sides. And then from there, the deck actually splits apart. It comes off in 2 sections. It just very easily lifts up. It's not even held down by anything. It just sits on there. And then you have very easy and very open access to the interior. And there is a lot to cover in here, and we're going to dive into all of that. Starting off in the front, there's going to be a pretty awesome control room up here. Now most all the control panels are stickers, but they still look really cool. I just wish they were printed because this is a UCS set again. Next room is going to be a little prison room with a ladder that can very easily be removed. You just pull it straight up. And then right behind that ladder, there's going to be a massive weapon rack that has lots of weapons on it. More than enough weapons for the number of minifigures that are included. Maybe some extra ones for some other figures that should have been included. Anyways though, then you're going to find a tiny little jail cell that has a sticker of some tally marks marked on the wall on the inside. And this thing can very easily be removed. You just pull it straight up. And this allows for an easier way to sit your minifigure on the inside. And then you just sit it back in there, and then you can close the gate on bro and he's in jail. The next room is the kitchen area, and this is definitely the most detailed room of the interior. There's so much going on here, from fish on the wall to turkey legs on the wall to various different glasses and dishes and things. There's even some drawers that can fold out with some bones in them, and there's even some stacked plates back there in the shelves. Like I said, this is easily the most detailed room of the interior. There's also even some stickered recipes on the wall. There is just so much in this one little room. It's awesome. And the next up is going to be the main room where Jabba sits on his throne, I guess is what you'd call it. I honestly don't really know. It's just where Jabba goes. And then you can grab all of your figures and put them in here and very easily recreate the whole entire scene. It's pretty awesome. And then also back there, there's another little sticker of a hut. I'm not sure if that's Jabba or a different one. And then last, but certainly not least, in the very back, you're going to have Max Rebo's little area where he can play his keyboard or whatever you want to call it. It's very hard to get on camera, but it looks really good. An awesome little area for him. And this is what his little keyboard pod thing looks like. Very simple, very detailed, just some stickers on it, but it looks cool, although I wish they were printed like every other sticker in this set. Also, if you're wondering, this is what the back looks like. Not a whole lot, just some more views into the interior, as well as just some plain back walls. And then once you have all your figures on the inside, the first thing you do is put the deck pieces back on, just very easily. They just sit right on there, and then you just very easily fold the side panels up, and then grab the sails and sit them back on the top, and your sail barge is ready to go. Now here it is paired with the Desert Skiff and Sarlacc pit set that came out in August, and I have to say, this is a phenomenal setup and just display piece. They do look really awesome together. I can't lie, it's phenomenal. However, if you want this display right here as you see it, it's gonna cost you $580. And is this worth $580? Definitely not even close. If we're being real, all of this should have been one set for $500 total, and on top of that had some more minifigures like some weakways like I've been saying throughout the video. So this is a beautiful display setup. It's just extremely extremely overpriced. And as for the Cell Barge itself goes, again, like I said, the build itself surprised me a little bit because it looks way better in person than it does in the product images. However, for $500, I honestly just don't think it's quite up to standards with UCS sets of this price. Like the Venator you see back there in the background, and some other sets like the UCS Falcon and the AT-AT and even the Razor Crest. I just don't think it's really up to standards with those. Again, it did surpass my expectations, except my expectations weren't very high. So for the build alone, I'm feeling a generous 8 out of 10, 2 points off just for the lack of detail here and there, especially in the middle, the overuse of stickers for a UCS set, and just some other nitpicks I had here and there. So I think 8 out of 10 is pretty generous. Now for the set as a whole, including the minifigures and the price, it is overpriced and the minifigure lineup is lacking, so I'm feeling a solid 7 out of 10 for the set as a whole. Unless you just really want to get your hands on this set right now, I would wait until it goes on sale before you buy it. Anyways guys, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now.